everybody. Welcome into Fox 5 Live, December 1st edition. It is officially the end of November, start of December. How wonderful is that? If you're a fan of the month, I guess you could say. If you're a fan of winter, welcome to meteorological winter. We've got hopefully some fun in store for later on this month. Definitely in the cold department. In the snow department, well, you know, snow's a little more fickle and hard to come by than the cold this time of year. But we'll at least get you started with cold temperatures and such. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go through the weekend first real quick, and then we'll get into talking about our snow chances in December. I did a Facebook Live on it last night. I'll kind of go through similar things here today, and then we'll call it a weekend, and we'll get everybody out, about, and hopefully you're going to have a good day because the sun is shining again outside today. It's a little cooler than it was the past several days, and the wind's blowing. See the flag whipping around there on the top of the White House. It will be a little breezy through the afternoon hours, but it should get a little bit better as the day kind of continues to progress on here. And temperatures nearing 60 this afternoon, but I don't think we'll make it. I think topping out in the upper 50s today, so a cooler feel versus the past several days. Do want to wish everybody a happy end to the hurricane season. We have officially wrapped up what was a busy and quite honestly an awful season, especially for folks at the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, obviously. U.S. and British Virgin Islands were hit very hard, and of course we had Harvey in Texas, and we had Irma. I mentioned the Leewards already, but Irma and Maria, the two Category 5 storms, wreaked havoc out there, and then Irma kind of went up through Florida and did a little bit of damage as well. Folks still cleaning up from that, so don't forget the folks in all those islands. Don't forget the folks, again, in Houston and all those locations that were affected by all of these hurricanes. They still need the help. Don't forget about them, especially now as we head into this holiday season, the season of giving. All right, quick look at the next 5 days because honestly, it's really not giving us too terribly much to talk about. It's kind of a quiet fall pattern, late fall pattern we're in here, even though today is again unofficially the start of meteorological winter. So I'll bring you back inside here. There's the big picture satellite. Nothing. You got a weak little front out here towards Chicago. That's going to bring us a little bit, it's going to kind of reinforce our cooler air into tomorrow. And as high pressure slides north and east and gets up off the coastline there, it's going to start a little bit of feedback, and we'll have some clouds around for your Saturday. Not overly cloudy. We'll still have the sun poking through, but biggest concern for the weekend is how much cloud cover we have. Not expecting any rain, not expecting any showers like we had last night. It should just generally be a much quieter weekend around the region. And Sunday should be sunny and bright. You're going to have the area of high pressure that's up here is going to slide to our south. That'll help warm us up just a touch, maybe near 60 again Sunday afternoon. If we get enough sun and light enough winds, we'll do it. Certainly a chance. To roll on through, I believe this next graphic, I want to talk about the coming cold. Here it comes. We have a few more days. Again, this is your day today, and let's scoot it forward. The computer's giving me some hiccups at the moment. I might have to switch computers here if it keeps taking up like this. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, warmish next week. It's not the same warmth as last week because it's going to come ahead of a front, which means clouds and showers more likely Tuesday and Wednesday. But we'll be warm. We're not expecting, at least on the front end of it, we're not expecting any snow. And then here comes the cold. Boom. This is the European model. Cold's coming down. You head into next weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and beyond. It looks like we're just going to start sort of a fire hose of cold air coming down from Northwest Canada down into the United States. We'll talk about why that is. I want to do conditions first and just show you that condition-wise, again, high pressure moves north and east as we head through your day tomorrow on Saturday, and then high pressure kind of buries itself in down south of us during the day on Sunday, and that will touch warmer. You'll see it in the 7-day in just a second. Here comes the front as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday. It's not on the 7-day forecast yet because I have very little confidence in the model this far out. but there's that chance that maybe we could end, and you kind of see it right there. If the front comes through, if the cold air comes in fast enough behind the front, maybe we could end with a little period where some snowflakes mix in with the rain, or maybe even end as a period where it's a little bit more snow. It would probably be either early Wednesday morning. It would probably be early Wednesday morning if that was to happen. It's not a concern, as in, even if we change the snow, it's not going to stick. Ground temperatures wouldn't be cold enough. And I'm skeptical. I don't like these fronts that come across that where the model show a change to a little bit of snow. I don't think it happens very much. If you want to, it's up to you. Let me know when you do, though, so I can throw it up myself. Oh, perfect. That's perfect. Okay, I'm going to, they're going to put this on Facebook, so I will come back to this. Let me throw you guys up with a live look at the White House again while I get ready, because they want to share it on Facebook, and I got to welcome everybody there. Whoa, preview of what's coming up next. Here's live look at the White House. Again, it's nice outside. It's a little windy, but things will progressively get better as we kind of head through the day today. We'll get up near 60 a little later on this afternoon, and things will be good. We'll put it that way. Things will be dry. I'll have to hit the weekend again because we're doing. We're going to invite the folks on Facebook in, and I want to go over the weekend for them so they know what's up, which is a whole lot of nothing because the weekend's kind of quiet around here. Again, we've mentioned it on air a few times. Tucker Barnes and I are getting a little bored in the weather department because we really have not had too much to talk about over the past couple of weeks, which I understand is a good thing if you're not a snow lover. If you're a snow lover, you're ready for winter, and you want to get things cooking and you want to have something to talk about, then you know, with Tucker and I, we live for that kind of stuff. We want to talk snow. We want to talk storms. You know, nothing destructive. We prefer talking about, you know, a couple inches of snow versus the big hurricanes and big tornadoes. But we're keeping our fingers crossed that the winter is good, that the winter is exciting, even though our winter weather outlook wasn't the most calling for the most spectacular winter in the world, but it was calling for a halfway decent one. Compared to average. All right, I'm ready. Whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and take me. Just let me know so I can give me that thumbs up, and I will welcome all the good folks in from Facebook, and we will we'll kind of redo what we did before, guys. So if you came in at the very beginning, sneak preview. Still working on it? Oh, I'm up. Okay. Hey, yeah. Hello, Facebook. Welcome, everybody. We want to get you started weekend weather-wise. I'm real quick, kind of look at the forecast, what's going on, and then I'm going to kick it right in and talk about December a little bit. I did this on my personal page late last night, but I want to do it again for you, for anybody that's wondering about December and whether or not we have any sort of snow chances going forward. I'll let you know. All right, let's get to it. I want to wish everybody a happy December. It's the start of meteorological winter for us in the weather department. It's also, and thank goodness for this, it's the end of hurricane season. It was a rough one. There's no way to understate it. Mentioned this a little earlier, but since we just hopped in on Facebook, I do want to mention, hi, everybody. What's up, everyone logging in on Facebook? Hey, Melanie. Hey, Lisa. Hey, hey, Kat. I believe Catty. Hey, Ang. What's up? What's up, Tay? Do want to mention, again, end of hurricane season. Thank goodness. Good riddance. It's over. It's done. 17 total storms, 10 total hurricanes, 6 major hurricanes. Let's see if I can remember all the statistics I looked up this morning. Fifth most active hurricane season on record. Most hurricanes since 2012. Or most storms, I think, since 2012, which was the Sandy year, if you remember that. Most hurricanes we've had since, or most major hurricanes we've had since 2005, most Category 5 since 2007. Irma and Maria were the 2 Category 5s this year. We had the most destructive storm / hurricane on record, Hurricane Harvey, $200 billion worth of damage, and total damage from all the hurricanes this year, costliest hurricane season of all time. We had over $360 billion worth of damage good riddance. Bad, bad, bad. We don't want to see those happy days. Happy days are ahead because we're getting rid of hurricane season again. It's over. It's done. We're not going to deal with it anymore, we hope. We're moving on. All right. Did want to mention that that we're watching, and by watching I mean I'm watching, forecast through the weekend. It's pretty quiet. I already kind of hinted at what's going on with folks on YouTube. And by the way, guys, we do these. I don't always do weather because that would be boring every day. But we do these little YouTube videos every day over on our YouTube channel. So if you're on YouTube, or if you want to see us every day at 11, I do a little something for 30 minutes at 11, and then Molly comes on and gets your news headlines up to date at 11:30. If you want to check these out, head over to Fox 5 DC on YouTube. Just type that in the search bar, and you can subscribe there, and you'll get these notifications every day when we do these fun little things. All right, moving back over to, we're going to talk about that in a minute. First, I want to move to the forecast for the weekend in case you are planning your weekend. Again, this is Saturday. It's quiet, high pressure north and east. We're fine. A couple of clouds. On the cooler side of things, there'll be a weak dry front that comes through later on tonight that will cool us down a little bit. Sunday, we have another area high pressure that'll sink south. That means a little bit warmer, but dry all weekend. Sunday's the sunnier day. Saturday, we'll have a few clouds. That's the only kind of concern we have. Heading into next week, the only thing we have to watch for is this front coming through late Tuesday afternoon through the first half of your day on Wednesday. That's your pattern changer. That's going to snap us from this nice quiet pattern we've been into a colder, more winter-like pattern as we head into the middle of December. You can see it right there on the little model I'm showing you. It's a rainmaker with one exception, and that is maybe, and I say maybe. If we're very lucky, particularly if you live north and west, we might, and the model, you can kind of see the model showing it there. I'm going to see if I have a closer view for you. Let me get you out on this closer view. You see we're right here in D.C. Going out to the middle, you can see it's trying to mix right there with maybe a couple of flakes on the backside of this thing. It's got a lot of cold air coming in up above our heads. Could it happen? Sure. If it does happen and we do see a change to snow, is it going to stick? Is it going to cancel school? Is it going to ruin your commute? No. It would literally just come down and melt immediately. It's more if it does happen, which I'm kind of skeptical that it will, because usually it doesn't in these scenarios. Usually we just get some rain and then wind and it gets cold. The mountaintops, one exception, but here, D.C., metro area, north and west of town, if it does happen, it will probably be a mixing with rain kind of thing. You'll see a few drops hitting your morning windshield. That's during the morning hours of Wednesday, morning commute time, 7 in the morning. And then it's over, it's done, and we're just cold and windy the rest of the day. Not a concern, again, for travel impacts. It would just be kind of, hey, it's first snow, and it wouldn't even be the first measurable snow, maybe just first snow flakes coming down for some of us. Again, I lean more towards the probably not going to happen, but it could. The model says it will, so we'll watch that. Then into next week, maybe we squeeze out a few flurries on a day or two, heading into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where we are very, very chilly. And by chilly, I mean cold. It's December. I'm talking lows in the teens, highs in the 30s in some spots, which is, believe it or not, below normal for the month of December. So we'll watch for that. I'll stop the model here because we'll go into the snow talk beyond. We'll kind of start that up right now. So here's the latest kind of stuff that's going on. I'm a weather guy. We look at patterns. You know it. We get the jokes all the time. All right, let me rewind things here. Before I jump into that, let me show the 7-day, because otherwise showing the 7-day at any other time won't make any sense. So I just kind of went through the forecast. Let me do the 7-day forecast for you guys, and I'll show you that. There it is. So again, no big time concern. 64 on Tuesday won't be that pleasant like we had the sunny and 70-degree day 2 days ago. Not going to be as pleasant with the clouds around. It'll start getting windy and breezy. So 64 won't feel like 64. We'll have some showers around late in the afternoon. Those will continue through Wednesday morning. Do we have to add a snowflake Wednesday morning? Again, I'm skeptical. That 55 degrees is probably a midnight high, and temperatures are going to fall all day on Wednesday. That low of 50 is a morning low, but we're looking at temperatures falling through the 40s all afternoon on Wednesday, so don't let the temperatures throw you off there. And then look at Thursday. Lows in the morning below freezing for the suburbs. Here in D.C., maybe not. But highs only in the middle 40s, and then Thursday night into Friday's even colder. All right, bringing you back to what's going on beyond. When we do a forecast and we sit down and I write these things for the web, and I go beyond the typical 7-day period that you all trust us with, and half the time you all don't even trust us with that, because I read the comments all the time that are like, you all can't even get past the 7 days right. And sorta, kinda. In a way, you're right. The details we can't get really right too accurately past 7 days, but we can look at the pattern and say, is this one good for some snow? If it was to happen, would we get snow in X pattern in the future, or is it not so favorable? And there's a little bit of both coming up in December. Let's get to what I mean, and that is on this computer here. I'm still learning the system a little bit, so we're working on it. All right, let's first do kind of what it would take. This is what it would take to get snow here in the month of December. Let me take you back. Again, I'm a pattern guy, so we have to watch the pattern going forward here. And let me pop this up first, because I want to show you the pattern that's coming up first and foremost as we head into the month of December here. Bring my happy little smiling face back. We have a bunch of different models we use. You see them all listed here. Every single one of those is a model. Every single one of those puts out a different forecast. I like the European model. You've probably heard about it if you follow any weather at all. If you don't, just know that statistically, it's usually the model that does the best. Just straight up, it does the best. Looking at the pattern here, and I want to find a certain zoom. I got to find out where they hit it from me. There it is, Northern Hemisphere. We have to go up above our heads, and why we do that and why we look at these levels way above our heads, this is 500 millibars up above where planes fly. We need to get an idea of what the pattern's going to be doing above our heads, because models get that better than they do at the surface when you're talking long term. So this is the going out through middle December. If you see the dates there, which you should be able to on your screen, 11th through the 16th. This is a cold pattern. This is really cold. What we call a blocking ridge up through Alaska and up through the Arctic there. You got a nice block through Greenland. If you hear Tucker and I ever talk about this on air, you want to get that nice block over Greenland. You're going to pull cold air down into the eastern half of the United States. That's why we're getting cold next week, and it looks like it's going to hang on for a little while here. Problem I have with this pattern is that it's not the snowiest in the world. If you're like me and you're a snow lover, you want to see snow. This probably isn't going to do it for you in a big time. Look at all those windows. Yeah, we got a lot of windows, because I'm going to talk about this for a little while. Let's see, who was that from? That was from Maria. So again, that's the upcoming pattern. Keep that in mind going forward. Here's what you want if you want a big snowstorm. Think 2009 levels of big snowstorm. You need, instead of this being all red like this, you need to introduce a little bit of weakness, and I'll show you what I mean, so that storms from the Pacific Ocean can come across and then come up the East Coast. That's where you're going to get your big juicy storms. That's where you're going to get your storms that are going to get out of school for days. Is that going to happen in this pattern? Not really, because you're cut off. That's good for getting cold into the eastern U.S., but you're not so much getting the energy needed to kick up the storms. What could change? Well, let me do a scenario. Let me take you 2009. If you lived in D.C. in 2009, you remember that year. That was like Snowmageddon we had in early December. Well, not early, late December. December 19th was the date that we had Snowmageddon. This was the pattern, that same kind of upper level pattern that I just showed you here. This was the pattern on that day. You had a nice block out here to the west. You had a nice block up across the Arctic area. All the red, that's blocking, and the blue is kind of where the cold is. You had weakness down here, though, which is something you don't see as much. Notice the difference between where the reds are here and where the reds are here. See how the reds, there's a lot more blues kind of straight up and down the coast, and the reds are kind of retreated back up to the west. So it's a much more extended area of weakness, and it's not so much down south. Like the peak of the weakness isn't down to the south. Again, it's complicated, but I'm going to try to explain it as best I can. This was, let's see, this is an extended look at the days leading up, and here's every single day leading up. I'll kind of skip this part, but I want you to know that earlier in the period, so this is the 13th and 14th of December that year, you had a lot of weakness down here in the southern portions of California, and then that kind of got blocked off, and you were able to kick up a storm at the end. Complicated there. Let me get into maybe something you can see a little more clearly how we get these big juicy storms. I want you to watch this is the weather models as they were back in 2009. I want you to watch here as we scroll through it forward in time. This is back on the 14th. We're back in the 14th. The storm that came in, remember I mentioned the weakness. Watch this area out here. That's energy. You're looking for the reds in there. That's spin in the atmosphere. That's energy coming through. So on the 14th, you had a little piece of energy able to squeeze its way out of the Pacific and kind of come through Southern California then. After that point, that energy kind of got cut off because you had a nice little ridge building up, and that energy got isolated. This is the 15th. That energy's there. You're pooling in cold air out here to the north, and then you're going to reinforce the cold air out to the west. We're looking at, again, just that one box, and let me see if I can, I'll try and zoom in on that so that we can see it. It's not zooming in. There we go. Oh, now I've just made it worse. There. Okay, so getting out beyond that day, actually it made it worse for me because now my little toolbox is not working. Weather problems, folks, computer problems. You'd think I'd be pretty good with computers by now. I've worked with them my whole life. Drag. Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay. So this right here is the energy that made your big storm on in December of 2009. That energy brought in a wave of cold air to help cool things down initially, and then behind it you had another piece of energy that's going to end up linking out. This was the 15th of December that year. Moving out to the 16th of December, watch the energy still stuck in Texas right here. Yeah, you're still cold here in the northeast, and the other piece of energy is still up there to the north. Moving out another day to the 17th, energy still down, now moving into the Gulf, starting to gather Gulf moisture. And the second piece of energy is starting to get its act organized to the north. Here we go on the 18th, day before the big storm. Now your two pieces are starting to show up. You've got this northern stream of energy dipping down. You got the southern stream of energy bringing the Gulf moisture to the south. The southern stream's leading the northern stream. That's always good if you want a big storm because that means they're going to clash at the right spot. We get you out to storm day. Watch as the two pieces of energy meet. Here's piece one. Here's piece two. They're meeting kind of right over our area. And what you end up getting is a storm. And boom, there it is. That was the December 19th storm in 2009. Complicated and probably went over a lot of people's heads, but that's what you need. Sophia thinks no snow till February, then overflow. Maybe. Again, just to summarize all that, and I had a lot of other examples, but I didn't know that we were going to do this on Facebook today because YouTube's usually a better platform where I can sit and go into longer types of scenarios. But just know that I don't like this pattern for getting us a big snowfall. I just don't. I think we could squeeze out a clipper or two, but the problem is this guy's going to block a lot of the energy we need for storms to come across. I think it's a cold and dry leaning pattern at least through the middle of the month, through the middle of next week. Then maybe things can break down a little bit. And I'll show you kind of what I mean by that. Just a quick look at these. These are called analog years. So the model says, here's the pattern coming up. Here are years in the past that look like it. The good news is every single one of these years, these 10 years that it spits out, every single one of them had snow during the month of December. So some hope there if you're a fan of some snow in the month of December. We don't usually get much. 2.3 inches is our only average. And half these years had less than an inch of snow. The other half of them actually had more than average snow. So 50-50 shot at it this year, I think. These were all kind of scenarios of snow. I won't go through them. It's going to take way too long. So Again, if it was only on YouTube, I probably would, but I'm going to run out of time and I'm going to bore you all to death if I go through that scenario for each little snow case we had. So just know that there's at least the chance of getting some snow, I believe, as we head through this month of December. I'm just not 100% confident that we're going to get a whole lot of it as we move kind of forward here. All right, I'm going to wrap things up with what we can expect going forward a little bit, and I'll take any questions. So more energy equals a higher amount of accumulations, asked Tay. Sort of, kind of, yeah. You don't want either piece to be too overpowering, otherwise you'll kick the storm out south. You sort of want them to be, the position of each one matters, but if you get a big juicy storm going on the Pacific coast that comes across, the likelihood of higher snow totals here in DC go up, as opposed to if you kick a weak little storm out of Canada that comes down. Those clipper systems, moisture starved, and they're weaker. Again, no snow yet, Jendai. I'm not calling for any of that yet. Weather risk is showing potential of 10 inches by next Thursday. Really? Really? I know weather risk, Dave Toleris. I don't think he would go there yet. Not by this coming Thursday or the following Thursday. He might have tweeted, be careful what you read in the extended range, guys. I see nothing that gives us 10 inches of snow by next Thursday. So, sorry, Brian. And I know Dave Toleris over at Weather Risk. I follow him myself, but I didn't see that post, and I'm not sure what he's going off of there. But I'll certainly tune in after this and see what he's talking about. All right, let me bring up the last thing. We'll wrap it up here really quick. Extended range stuff. This is the latest model that comes in, the most accurate long range model we have, which is once again from the courtesy of the European. These are the European weeklies. They just came out last night. They run twice a week. It says this. Again, I'm looking at the pattern, but I'll describe what it means for us here in DC. Nice block here down to the south. You're getting cold air. Nice block across the pole. Nice block out west. Nice block out in Greenland. That's a nice block all around. You're going to get cold air down into DC here as we head into next week. You head into the late December. You want a white Christmas. I think odds are a little high. They're only 10% as it sits, period. So not very high. I would double those odds this year. I'd go 20%, so a 2 out of 10 chance that maybe we can get a white Christmas around here, because watch as we go forward, that's still a cold pattern. There's still a lot of blue across the eastern coast of the United States. You're still doing a lot of blocking across the pole, assuming this model is right. Again, it's not always perfect, but as far as the long range stuff goes, this is the best model we have. When I think things get more interesting, this is the last week in December, this is the first week in January. That's a nice block up top. There's weakness. I mentioned the weakness when we went through the last storm. You can pull some Pacific storms in here if their weakness shows up in the pattern just like this. If there's a split between the two ridges and you're allowing some Pacific moisture to come in this way, you could spin something up that kind of goes across like this. I don't think it's a big one because that's a northern versus southern weakness. Usually our big storms come across the south. But you can still get a decent snowfall out of that kind of pattern. And guys, we went 12 to 18 inches, I believe, for snow this year. So I do need it to snow halfway decently at sometimes. We didn't favor the big ones in our winter weather outlook, but we did expect some snow. So I think this would be the type of pattern where we can get like a 6-inch snowstorm out of it, but we'll watch it. Again, that's early January, mid-January, much of the same, although you're starting to block things out. That's more of a cold and dry versus a stormy pattern, but we'll see. Again, that's 6 weeks in the future. Weather models aren't exactly the most accurate things, but that's the best one we have. Maybe this is what Dave Toleris was showing, but it's beyond Thursday. But here's an example of why you should be careful with what you read on social media. This is way out in what we call the forecast period. This is like day 13, 14, 15, which is highly inaccurate in the modeling world, so we almost never talk about it. But I'll show you. There's a perfect scenario of a weather model giving us a blizzard in the extended range. So let me scoot that over a little bit. There it is, low pressure off the sweet spot. This is Friday, December 15th. it's December 1st. So if you think I buy that, absolutely not even close, and no sensible weather person would. It's wrong. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It's wrong. But let's look at it, and I'll try and explain how this model gives us this storm, because it's something we can look for as the model moves forward to see if it copies. Again, it's not going to be right, guys. I don't know how else to put it. If we squeeze snow out at that time frame, it's not going to be from this kind of setup. Models just, they don't get this right. But here's why it's doing what it's doing. Here's my little upper level pattern thing I like so much again. That is this coming week, or next weekend, which we actually have decent confidence about that it's going to be cold as we head into next weekend. Let's move the model forward, though, to where that storm comes out. And what it does, essentially, is it starts spreading that trough out far enough west that you start grabbing some Pacific moisture there across the Pacific Northwest. That rotates down and around. You're getting it down here. So now that piece that grabbed is down here. You got a little Pacific connection there. You're going to rotate another piece of energy down that's going to keep the cold in place. And then bada bing, bada boom, you go one more step forward. Those two combine. You get a southern piece here. You get a northern piece here bringing the cold. You get this southern piece bringing the moisture, and boom, you get a snowstorm right in between the weakness of the ridge off the coast and the trough on the east coast. Complicated, crazy stuff. I hope you understand a little bit of what I just did there, but know that this whole pattern, this whole setup, everything that this model just showed is unlikely to happen. They don't do well that far out in the forecast. So if I'm a weather guy and I post this image on my Facebook page and I say, uh-oh, could get stormy in the middle of December, that's fake news in my opinion. Why would I put that out when I, as a weather guy, kind of know that that situation's not going to occur? Just as an example, so Friday the 18th of December is what that model showed. Let's go back a model run and we'll see what it had on Friday the 18th of December. That's right at the end of the period. So that was new as of that model run, but this past model run gets you out to the 17th. Do you see any storminess even developing back here? No, there's nothing there. So each model run at that time frame is extremely different, and I do want to caution because I see it every winter, and people post them on my Facebook page every winter and say, this guy says there's going to be a foot of snow in 2 weeks. Be careful. That's the only advice I can give. I don't trust, even personally myself, I don't trust a weather model beyond 5 days when dealing with snowfall and winter at all. Snow is fickle in everything needed to kind of bring it all together. So that's what I stress. Be careful on social media. I promise you, like Tucker, me, Sue, we're not going to tweet that stuff unless it's actually going to happen. This is the new, I'm just kind of looking through this myself. While we were talking, we had a new run of the model that's still actually coming in. It's live. It's only 10 days out. Not even to 10 days yet. It's about 9 days out, just to see if it's bringing us anything different from what I just told you over the next 10 days. It's still showing that maybe, and even less so, which I expect will continue, that chance, that's Wednesday. We're right there inside that black box. It's not showing the change to snow as much. Again, I don't think that we're going to see a lot of snowflakes here on Wednesday. Maybe if you live in the mountains, north and west. I just don't think it's right for it just yet. I think we could maybe squeeze out a flurry or two as we head into Friday morning. I mean, there's that pattern right there. You see that speck of green coming right across, and I know it's small on everybody's screen, but there's enough upper-level energy around that we could squeak out maybe a couple of flurries on Friday or Saturday. There's Saturday, little clipper system goes by to our north. That'd be a halfway decent chance of squeezing out a flurry or two on Saturday morning as well. And then kind of just, we're cold. We're cold, but nothing too active from a southern standpoint as we move into the middle of the month. We'll watch it. I promise you, I'm not going to raise any false alarm flags and start preaching snow, snow, snow until I'm more confident that we have something to go off of in the world of snowfall, because I don't want to cause any false flags. I am simply trying to be as forward with you guys in saying, hey, I like snow, so I want it. But I'm trying to be as forward and say be careful with what you see on social media out beyond 5 days. I don't personally like forecasting snow beyond 5 days because so much can change. There are one or two exceptions to the rule. There's January 2016, where I think we were able to accurately say about a week ahead of time, hey, this looks very interesting. Those are rare cases, though, and usually those are the bigger storms versus this year we think it'll be the smaller storm. So, hey, Christopher wants a green Christmas. That's fine. It does look cold. I'm sorry for Christmas, Christopher. It might be a brown Christmas. It might be dry and cold, but I don't see a lot giving us warmth. I don't see any models, honestly, giving us warmth around the Christmas time frame. Let's see. Get some snow. I love the winter. I hope so, too. Last winter was awful. It was a top 10 snowless winter in D.C. We're trying to do better than that this year, that's for sure. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, fire them up on Facebook or on YouTube. Otherwise, we'll call it a day. I'll go home and enjoy my weekend, and I hope you guys enjoy yours. Again, weather concerns for this weekend are nada. A couple of clouds on Saturday. It's chilly, and then Sunday, sunny, bright, and pretty nice. We'll get close to 60 degrees on Sunday afternoon. Friday's the 15th. I think I said that, didn't I? Did I say the 18th? Maybe I said the 18th by accident. I don't remember what I said. I'll pull that up just to make sure I didn't. Yeah, let me check and make sure I didn't put out Friday. I might have said the wrong date. So I think you're right. I think Friday is the 15th. Let me go back and see what it said at 6. So here's what she's asking about, was the 15th thing. Let me fire this back up. So we were looking at that, again, totally wrong and unlikely to happen, but I just wanted to show you, yeah, you're right, Friday the 15th. So that's what it showed. Okay, so here's another good example of how weather modeling world changes everything around. That's what it showed at 6Z. If I go to the earlier run of the same model, see, it didn't have any storm there. Same time, look at the time stamp up there, 12Z Friday, December 15th. No storm in that run, storm in that run. We go back even another run. Okay, now we got a storm in that one, but we go to the run before, no storm in that one. So it's back and it's forth and it's back and it's forth. We're not going to tell you that a storm is coming until we're 110%. You know how it is in DC. You all live here. I grew up here. It's trouble. If we start saying, hey, big storm possible, then all chaos breaks loose and everybody clears out the grocery stores. We're not going to do that to anybody until it's at least more than a 50% chance of it happening. Again, right now, for everybody saying, please no snow, aside from flakes, flurries, and the off chance we could see a flake or two mixing in as the system pulls away on Wednesday. And again, I don't really favor that. I don't see any snow in the immediate forecast. All I can kind of say is that the pattern we see coming is one I like for getting some sort of snow in the month of December. I like it. I think we'll squeeze out a measurable snowfall in December. I think when we did the winter weather outlook and Tucker and I were making bets, I originally said not till January. And Tucker said December. So I think Tucker might win this one just because this pattern is impressive for December. We haven't seen a pattern like it since 2009, although the difference between 2009 and that blockbuster snowstorm and this year is El Nino in 2009 and La Nina this year. La Ninas tend not to be as good for us with those juicy little storms. So there you go. Vanessa says she's praying for lots of snow. I'm going to be honest, I am too. But we'll see what we get. All right, guys, that's all I have. It looks like the questions have stopped rolling in. I hope you all have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday on Fox 5 Live on YouTube, and occasionally they'll certainly show this to you on Facebook as well. But we hope you join us in YouTube, Fox 5 Live over there. All right, I'm wrapping it up. Have a great weekend. Be safe. And we'll see you here next week. Let's see. I think what Mike is telling me is I'm not going to make any more money with my plow this winter. Not at all, Mike. I'm not telling you that at all. I think that we should have a plowable storm or two in the region this winter. I feel pretty good about that. More so than I did with last winter. Last winter was kind of a flip a coin, and we decided to go with the snowier direction. It didn't quite work. This year, I think if you've looked at our winter weather outlooks as well as others that are out there, we're all pretty similar because we all look at the same stuff when we make the forecast. And it's nice to see agreement between multiple forecasters. That makes you feel a little bit good. Hilda says, I agree with you, January. Yeah, that was my original thinking. But again, we're going to get cold. That we're pretty I'm very confident that we have the cold coming. It's the snow aspect that I'm not, but I like the pattern. And that's all you can kind of do as a forecaster when you look that far out, is say you like the pattern. All right, guys. Tay, enjoy your weekend as well. Thank you so much. Have yourselves a great weekend, and we will see you back here on Fox 5. Well, don't forget about the evening, folks, tonight. And Molly's coming up in just a few minutes. I'm sure the Michael Flynn stuff is going off. I stay away from politics because I don't like them. I'm a weather expert. I have no expertise in politics, so why get involved in something that you have no idea what you're talking about? That's the method I live by. All right, guys, have a great weekend. Enjoy it. It'll be dry. It'll be quiet. And we'll get you through next week as well. Let's see. One more. West says, we're traveling to Williamsburg on 12/11 to take our young kids to Busch Gardens Christmas Town. Ooh. Let's see. Busch Gardens, that's south of here. Will it be terribly cold? It'll be chilly. Yeah, absolutely. You'll have to dress warm, you and your kids down there. It'll feel Christmassy, that's for sure. I don't believe you'll see any snow, especially not that far south and east. But it'll feel at least a little Christmassy. Maybe they'll have some snow blowers going or something. I doubt it. But Christmas Town should be pretty good. Oh, I got the Facebook page up. I didn't even realize I brought it up to read your all's comments. So we're doing the double box here. All right, that's all I got, guys. I'll sign off for now. Molly's on her way over. She's going to handle the news aspect and all the fun stuff going on there. Otherwise, I'm signing off for the weekend. I will see you all on Monday. If you're an early riser, I'll see you at 4:30 on Monday. Tucker's gone until Wednesday, but we got Caitlin Roth in. Yay, Caitlin! Yeah, we got sun and cold and all that fun stuff to talk about. And then Tucker's back on Wednesday. So, all right, guys, take care. Have a great weekend. I think I've said that 6 times now, but this time I mean it. See y'all later. Molly's coming up.
All right, what is up, y'all? It's Molly and T who's visiting me today in the newsroom, getting ready for our Friday show. First of all, happy Friday. It's payday in here, so we're happy. And we're happy that it's Friday, and we're happy that you're on with us. If you are on the stream for the first time, welcome. If you have been watching us before, welcome back. You can see inside our digital newsroom today, we're gonna kind of see what we got coming in live and then bring you a host of other events that have been happening around DC and around the nation and around the world, and anything breaking, of course, as it happens. I'm Molly Nevola here in the digital studio with T, and we're gonna first talk, I guess, because we have to, Redskins Cowboys last night, guys. Thursday Night Football. We know T is a longtime Cowboys fan. We're in Redskins world, though, so you know,
it feels good to win.
They played in Dallas. Yeah. Dallas won last night. I watched some of it. I watched a good portion of it.
What a great game, though.
It's good to see.
I watched the entire thing. Kirk Cousins was doing his thing. Like you could see the numbers in the game, and you can tell that both teams are doing amazing. Alfred Morris, he used to be a Redskin. He ran over 100 yards against his former team. A bunch of Redskins players got injured yesterday in like the first quarter of the game too. So it was very hard for Kirk Cousins to sustain even like throughout the game because he kept getting hit. He was taking major hits. He was getting rid of the ball fairly quickly, but all in all, those injuries definitely affected the outcome of the game. Yeah, and the Redskins.
Big rivalry.
Yep.
Redskins Cowboys at Dallas, so we didn't have presence there as Fox 5, but we were, of course, following it and reporting it, and I know Brody, our sports guy, was tweeting out about it, and other people too. But that was the Thursday Night Football game, which is funny, coming a week after the Thursday Night Football game here on Thanksgiving Day that I went to. I mentioned that to you guys. It was super fun. So they played 2 Thursday nights in a row.
2 Thursday nights in a row, yeah, that is. It was also the first time the Redskins played Thanksgiving at home against the Giants last week.
It was the first time they were at home for Thanksgiving.
So that was
neat.
Yeah, that was pretty good, and they got the win. But now I think the Redskins are out of the playoff race because their record is 5-7, I believe. So they are out of it. They're not even eligible for maybe a wild card thing. No, not unless. Yeah, I think
they're out of it.
I think the most a team has to lose is like 6 games. So the Cowboys are there; they have 6, but they need.
They're tight. They're on the
Detroit
cusp.
needs to lose. Eagles need to win.
A lot of things have to happen for
a lot
certain
of things.
teams, obviously, to get in.
Eagles are still number 1 in the division for NFC East. They would have clinched if Dallas lost yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So they did not clinch. But they're still 9-1, 10-1. So
yeah.
Yeah, they're at the top.
This is a fun time. The end of November, obviously it's the 1st of December, so happy December, guys. It's always a fun time in sports. We're going right into that sort of prime time of the sports season, and then going into next year, and then the Super Bowl and all that. So fun for football season, fun for college football. all that
Basketball
stuff.
season's about to start firing up.
Yeah.
Also in December, it's
Which
going
is
to be
so fun.
amazing.
It's a fun time of year for that.
Yeah.
I think we need it because we're going into the darkest month it is. I was hearing Caitlin, our weather this morning. She was saying December 1st marks the first meteorological day of winter.
Wow.
And then, of course, the first actual day of winter is the 21st.
Is that the
of
winter
December.
solstice?
It's the solstice.
Okay.
So technically we have these 20 days or whatever, but today is a marker as well. I want to show you quickly what we have on coming into our sources right now. We're going to play it back a little bit more later, but this is a press conference. A former U.S. attorney, Tim Heaphy, he's holding a news conference to talk about his own review of the August 12th protests and rallies that involved white supremacists in Charlottesville. You probably remember that violence. That was over a weekend, and I remember that very well. I was literally sitting in a coffee shop, seeing this all come in, seeing tweets and all this, and it's not too far from home. So Charlottesville obviously going through a lot in mid-August. I remember that very well. So he is speaking about his own review of it. I think it's pretty interesting. We're going to play some of that later on. But first, just to show you what's coming in live for a second. But first we're hanging out, kind of talking a little sports, talking on this Friday. Very excited to go into the weekend. Let us know what you're up to this weekend or what you're up to right now. If you're watching us real time. I'm not sure who's East Coast and who's elsewhere, but I know you guys are all over. But
yeah, it's like almost noon here.
Yep,
so.
almost noon. And we're following a couple different stories today. Well, I'll show you a little clip from the Christmas tree lighting, which was last night.
Oh yeah.
At the White House area, lit up. It's an annual event. It dates way back to 1923, and President Trump was there with the First Lady. We have a little clip of that little ceremony. We had, of course, reporters on that as well. And then we'll just show you some other stuff today too. Oh, it's World AIDS Day, which you might see this in the headline. It's advocates are out to kind of hold events about recognizing it as World AIDS Day to talk about resources and volunteer opportunities for combating HIV and AIDS. And DC's Mayor Muriel Bowser had an event this morning. I think it's just barely over moments ago, so we're going to play you some of that. She's always been an advocate for working on this epidemic, as I believe it was so highly elevated in DC for a long time, but in recent years the numbers have actually gone down. I know there's stats about this we can read, but currently 1.9% of the population of DC are living with HIV. That's about 12,000, about 13,000. Big number, you think, and then it's a small percentage, but I believe that has decreased over the decades by a high amount. So I just remember being a longtime resident of DC and coming here knowing it was a big deal here, health-wise. You're from PG.
I think at one point, a few years ago, DC had like the highest rating of HIV infected people. But it's I mean, you know, it looks like it's good to see that the numbers have decreased. Mm-hmm. And yeah, people are being more aware of it. This is also good that, you know, they have an actual day for it. Mm-hmm. So you can spread awareness.
Yeah, it is technically today, like I said, World AIDS Day. So there's also simultaneously, I think, I don't have a camera on this actually, but there is a rally outside the White House basically protesting the administration not to surrender their fight against HIV and AIDS, calling on President Trump to keep sort of on the heels of the One campaign and others that are helping the hardest hit people and countries that are dealing with this epidemic. So kind of interesting stuff going on today in DC, as we always have those relevant things. But other than that, what else have we got? We got some Wizards games this weekend. Are you going to one of them?
Wizards tonight. Or is it tonight or tomorrow? No, I'm not going to the game.
Okay.
I might actually if I have nothing else to do.
This one's Saturday.
Yeah, there's some student rush tickets. So I might be able to get some nosebleeds for. Huh?
Are you a student?
No, I'm not a student, but I get them at student rates. I used to be a student.
Oh, you can get a rate because you were.
Yeah, student rush. Look them up. You get your tickets for cheap.
I didn't know about that. Let us know what you guys are working on this weekend. What's going on? It's the first full weekend of December. Looking forward to it. It's a cold month. It's the winter solstice month.
Some of my neighbors started putting their Christmas lights up too.
I've seen it
some
too.
Of the houses are.
Are you guys kind of in the thick of it? I'm walking down the street in my neighborhood, which is a festive, gorgeous, kind of old, historical neighborhood in DC, and I love it. There's so much brick and beauty that can be adorned with gorgeous lights, but I've only really seen like one big tree outside. I think most people do their indoor decorations.
Yeah. So I didn't buy my Christmas tree yet, but Usually we buy like a real Christmas tree and just bring it in. But I'll probably do that like next week when we get closer to Christmas. Personally, I haven't been feeling the holiday season.
No?
Yeah, it hasn't hit me yet.
It's hard. I think the December name that we're going into this dark month of Christmas.
The dark
it will hit. For some reason December is just like that's the month where I'm just like I want to huddle away. It's winter. But it is the Christmas season. It's the holiday month, so we're getting into it. I think once I see a little more decoration around here, you see nothing behind me, right? It's the same. We gotta get some garland.
Also the weather. The weather is kind of weird.
That's the thing. You guys heard Mike earlier. If you guys were on the stream, Mike comes up at 11, and it's not been cold.
Yeah.
It's not really wintry. It's still
not
pretty warm.
No winter vibes at all. It feels like.
I have a clip of this for later possibly, but Caitlin, like I said, she's over there. She went to the first igloo in DC. It's like this cool frozen igloo in downtown DC at City Center, and it's it's dripping a little bit. I don't know if it's going to last through the weekend. It's supposed to be really cold where you can enjoy it, go into it, and I think it will be for a little bit. The nightfall will keep it cold, but it is a little warm to keep that thing intact, I think. Don't you think?
Yeah, global
Did you see that
warming, man.
This morning? It was interesting. It was cool to see.
Yeah, the igloo is dripping. That's a major sign.
It's literally it's an igloo. I'll get this clip and play it for you after. But it's a igloo in the middle of downtown DC.
I think when it starts getting a little colder, maybe if I see a little flurries.
Yeah, we haven't even touched that yet.
Then it'll be.
I didn't hear Mike's actual report on this, but he. I think was saying trying to ask, are we gonna see snow? But I don't think so. I think this week is high 50s. Wow. I think we hit 70 this week. I actually didn't get to enjoy that outside. Did you?
I did during lunchtime.
You did. You had to go outside.
But it was too hot. I walked out with my jacket and I was sweating in 70-degree weather.
Goodness.
Yeah.
I know. I'm having trouble picking what to kind of put on before I leave the house. Because I'm like, is it gonna be another frigid day or not? So we'll have a little clip of that with Caitlin, which is cool. Later. Also, we'll talk about Bowser with this AIDS Day. We'll have a little bit, I think we're going to be hearing from Dr. Shilpi. We talked to her last week. If you guys were on our stream, she's going to check in over Skype to talk a little bit of a medical segment.
Awesome.
We're talking about the flu vaccine not being super accurate this year, possibly not being effective, as effective as people think. We'll talk about other things that are relevant to people of our kind of world, our frame, our digital viewer frame. And it'll be fun to kind of talk to her, checking in with the medical side today. So hopefully that will come up in a little bit. And then we'll take anything live too. So we're going to be on it today.
All right.
You working on anything too big? Going upstairs?
No, it's just your usual Friday. I've got a bunch of upgrades here and there, but
Upgrades
I'll get them done before the deadline.
Yeah.
Other than that,
you'll see too, we're going to step away from this and give you tape playback of the president meeting the Libyan Prime Minister.
Hearing what we're getting in. It looks like they're stepping away from the Charlottesville video. I was hoping to bring that to them. The lawyer's independent review of that August 12th event, the protest and rally that ended up killing a woman in Charlottesville. But they're switching it over, and it's going to be playback of President Trump. He actually met with the Libyan Prime Minister this morning. So some special exclusive tape of that played back from this morning. So we'll switch it up to that and play that out in a second.
Libya was having issues with slavery, and it's a bunch of was it Libya?
Wait, you're talking?
Liberia? I could be wrong.
I haven't checked into what he's talking about with him today, but I can do that. Anyway, guys, if you're just joining us on the stream, I see some people have jumped on. Welcome to our Friday digital stream inside our newsroom here at Fox 5 in Washington. Let us know where you're watching from and what you think about today. We're excited it's Friday. We were talking just briefly about Redskins Cowboys. That was last night. The big rivalry. Redskins fell to the Cowboys last night at the Jerry World Dome.
Yes, Jerry World. Just called Jerry World. Yep.
In Dallas, or is it right outside of Dallas?
It's in Arlington, Texas.
That's right. It's in Arlington.
Arlington, Texas.
And I was looking at an old video that Brody had done when he was there last year. He did like a live, and he sort of showed around it. And I remember it's worth looking at because it's so interesting.
I heard it's like an amusement park.
Right.
I've never been there, but I heard it's like just amazing, like an amazing facility. Everything's state of the art.
Yeah.
The biggest, I think, TV screen
in
the world
in the NFL. franchise or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, you know, we were talking about on Thanksgiving, tickets were really low price. They were having trouble filling the seats. We had a whole article about how they were like as low as $7, but were tickets for this game possibly much more?
No. Tickets were cheaper
similar.
before, only because previous to last night's game, the Cowboys had lost 3 in a row. They looked horrible. They were not. They didn't. I think they only scored 1 touchdown in the last 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
So it's yeah. So like nobody was really, I guess, into the football spirit anymore. You know, once your team starts losing, it's a heartbreaking feeling.
Right.
So yeah, I know that one person, he had this one guy I knew. He had tickets. And he said they were only worth about 25% of what he bought them for.
Oh.
Before the game started yesterday. So, yeah, tickets were relatively affordable. More so than, I guess, before when the Cowboys were doing great.
That's the thing. The seasons go on, and then when people realize how teams are doing, and if they're not doing well, it's just like, we're trying to fill the seats. You know? They're lowering the prices. So
I'm sure scalpers were out there. Accepting whatever they could.
I want to rephrase what I just mentioned. I think they're going to be playing back actually footage of Secretary of State Rex Tillerson meeting with the Libyan Prime Minister, not President Trump. So I make that correction at the Department of State, which is interesting because there's talks now of is Secretary Tillerson going to be ousted out and replaced by Mike Pompeo, the director of the CIA, who is then possibly going to be replaced by Senator Tom Cotton. So it's an interesting little trio of happenings with the administration, who's in and who's out, speaking of the Secretary of State. So we'll see if we get that video up. Right now we're still in Charlottesville at this independent review. Let's check into that, and then we may switch it up and go back over to the World AIDS Day event with Muriel Bowser. I thought that was kind of cool to see a local DC event that has broad impact and really local and national impact, bringing awareness to the fact that these numbers are better now with the AIDS epidemic in DC, but it's still something to talk about and something to be aware of and to work on to continue the fight for. So when we can cue that up, I'll bring you that video of the mayor. But first, while we have it, let's go over to Charlottesville to check out this review of the protests and the white supremacist event and violence from August.
Was that truthful in your estimation at this point?
I told you what I think the police were told. Don't intervene when there's a very serious conflict with serious bodily injury. They were told when to intervene. They were never told not to intervene. But by implication, obviously, it means that they'll intervene in limited circumstances. Yes?
By your assessment, we're looking at another one of these rallies coming back for an anniversary. By your assessment, is leadership in this city need to change before that anniversary rally, or do you think leadership as it stands, local law enforcement, council, do you think they've learned and they can handle this, or does there need to be a change?
That's not for me to say. I'd have no view on that. Don.
Going on to the gentleman's question, was there any direct dereliction of duty or violation of the oath of a sworn officer that's either highlighted in your report or that you can bring forth at this point?
No. I think the officers did what they were told to do. And a lot of them were frustrated with that. To me, dereliction of duty is being insubordinate or doing something different than you were told to do.
Which is what you mentioned that I believe Mayor Pleasants did by authorizing the use of tear gas.
Yes.
Which was a violation of a direct order.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Well, I don't think Major Pleasants believed it was a violation of the order. He didn't understand it. He told us he believed he had the authority.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you don't find any violation of the sworn oath of an officer in any of these circumstances, going from back to May, coming forward to office?
Yeah. We found, Don, no example of a police officer disobeying any order. I think there were a lot of mistakes about what they did.
Okay, but I'm not asking about the order now. I'm asking about the sworn oath of office that they take.
Yeah, I think they were doing what they were told. I think the plans that were in place did not allow them to protect and serve.
We resolved that at Nuremberg. That's not a defense. I did what I was ordered to do.
How much time elapsed from when the chief said, let's let them fight, it'll give us a better standing when we clear the park, to the time that you were reported?
I don't know. I don't know. Jackson.
At any time, did the office of Governor Terry McAuliffe deny you material information that you requested to examine his administration's actions before or after the riot?
The governor's office responded to a FOIA request and gave us a few hundred pages of documents. They gave us some emails, they gave us some talking points that were given to the governor to inform a conversation that he had with the mayor before the event. We were not able to interview anyone. We wanted to interview Secretary Moran. We weren't given that opportunity. But we did get a production of documents from the governor's office.
I'm sensing a disconnect. When I read the report, there's definitely a lot of things in the report that you and your staff say that he doesn't provide, and then it seems like it's a really big deal. But then the sort of editorial I'm getting here, it sounds very different, like that's no big deal. I mean, what was it? Were you denied information that you wanted or not? I'm not asking, so he gave you some stuff, that's good. In your report, it suggests that it wasn't enough. Now I'm hearing something different.
I guess what I would say is that we were denied access to a lot of information from a lot of sources. I don't believe that ultimately resulted in a big gap in terms of our ability to comprehensively tell the story. For instance, the state police. We talked to Colonel Flaherty, and they gave us one document, which was the July 8th operational plan. We had a lot of other stuff from other sources, from the Charlottesville Police Department, from their interaction with citizens, from their interaction with people that did speak to us. So while they didn't give me as much as I asked for, I still believe that we were able to develop a thorough understanding of their approach to the event, despite their lack of cooperation. I'd say the same thing about the governor's office. They gave us some stuff. I believe we have a sufficient understanding of their approach to this, even though they didn't give us everything that we requested.
Tim, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, you still only responded to half of my question.
Okay.
I'm still hung up on, did your report, did your investigation reveal any direct violation or noncompliance to the sworn oath that officers take to protect themselves?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, I'm not talking about orders that they were
right.
given. I'm just talking about the oath that they're given to uphold.
The fact they did nothing.
I believe that they thought they were doing the right thing, or at least that they were told. They believed that their plan going in was sufficient. And at the time when they're told, pull back and get your right gear on and declare an unlawful assembly, they wish now in retrospect that they had done more, but I don't believe at the time they were acting in dereliction of duty. They were.
And the fact that they stood and mere feet away and watched all hell break out around them and did nothing to intervene, you don't find that as a direct violation to their sworn?
Let me tell you what they said. They said, had we gone in, then it could have made it worse. Had we gone in, then there could have been a deadly force situation. These are the explanations that we got were it could have made it more difficult. So my point is that they were not derelict in their duty. They made, in my view, miscalculations, and the plan was horribly conceived. But in real time, they were trying their best to make decisions that they believed was correct.
But I'm asking about the sworn oath, the oath that they give to uphold. Was there a violation to that oath?
They did not sufficiently protect and serve during these events. I don't know how else to answer your question. Okay, Sandy.
You said that the state police were helpful. In what respect did you mean that? And should the state, in advance of what happened, been more forceful in asking for more control of what was going to happen in Charlottesville?
When I say they were helpful, they provided 600 troopers. They provided a helicopter that provided images. They had the field forces that were there they provided essentially everything that the local police department requested. Their view, and this was Colonel Flaherty himself, is that they're deferential to local control, that their role is to support, and they evaluate plans and they do to the best they can to plug into a plan. I think what needs to happen is that there needs to be a much more affirmative template of what the state police is responsible for versus what local police, and it ought to be really explicitly communicated. The problem was that they didn't communicate that they're here for park security. They explicitly said we're going off plan because of the threat to officer safety. So whatever they do, it needs to be clear, it needs to be articulated, and it needs to be, everyone needs to understand that. So even though they had a ton of resources and a lot of help, their independence and their going off plan is what really was ineffective here. Chris.
Chief,
Thomas said at a press conference a few days after the rally that the rally goers didn't follow the operational plans that had been agreed upon. You had said that there were plans for the speakers to enter through, I think, Charlottesville Street, right?
Yeah.
Was there a plan for like all these rally goers to come through the back, or was it just exclusive to few people?
No, there was no plan for all the rally goers to come through the back. As a matter of fact, the law enforcement knew that many of them were going to stage at McIntyre Park, come in vans down the bottom of the hill on Market Street and walk up. They also knew that some of them would come from the Market Street parking garage, and that's why the traffic plan allowed vehicular traffic in there. So there was no understanding that they were all going to come in from the back. The speakers were, but not the broader attendees.
So is that factual for Thomas to say that they didn't follow the plans?
The speakers didn't follow the plans. That's accurate. I don't know what Chief Thomas said about the rest, but he's right that the speakers did not come in an organized back through the public safety area as they had indicated they would do before. Right? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have a couple questions. One, when the information was given to City Council, as well as I'm sure the police about Friendship Court, that they were going there to harm them, and there was a thread that was presented to them that said what they were going to do to them. So why wasn't that area protected? Because it was a low-income black neighborhood, for one. Two, from J8, mistakes that the police made when, as a citizen first, before a Black Lives Matter member, I watched the strategies of how things were being preparated for J8 and August 11th and August 12th to turn around for the detrimental things that had taken place. I was hit with one of those gas bombs. Tear gas bombs on J8. It wasn't what you would call, when we were standing there, the lies that you just told are already about with us being in the front and the police doing this and doing that, and it became it became a problem. No, it didn't become a problem until your police decided to look at the citizens in the wrong manner and decided to start harming us, because they started, once the city police stepped out the way, the state police immediately stepped in and started hitting us with those shields. And as they were hitting us with shields, I, as a woman, as a citizen, I felt that I should have never been hit with no shield. And then I took and locked arms. And once I locked arms, the police continued to hit me. And then all of a sudden, a retreat. They just stopped immediately and moved back. So where was that call from? For that stand there, for them to go get the riot gear, to go up that hill, to prepare to hit us with tear gas, where there was the unlawful whatever it is, assembly wasn't called in the right time, right amount of time, nor was it loud enough for the people to hear. And then for the protesters to stand there and to be kicked in their face, thrown on their faces, and the other things, what was that called for? Then I'm gonna go back to August 11th, and where was, we knew as anti-protesters that what was gonna take place in the city, but the city didn't know? I don't understand that. Because there was threads, ample enough threads, what they were gonna do. Not only is it Charlottesville City Police is responsible, Albemarle County Police is responsible, and college police were responsible, because they knew, the president knew that they were coming, so you already had your public safety in your hand, that you could have gave these people an ample enough time for these students to be prepared for what was to take place. And the church. We knew that the people were coming to the church to harm us. I was inside that church as well. So where was the police? I was out there. I was late. I couldn't even get in the church. So I sat out there for about a good hour watching. Wasn't no police nowhere in sight. But because I was black, I had to be rushed into the church because what was getting ready to take place. So if my security had to come in and do y'all's job, Why isn't there no responsibility on the police? Why aren't they taking responsibility for the lives of the community that they already had the plans in their hands that they knew? Now I'm standing here as a community leader, a mother, and a member of different organizations, still in fear of my life. Because when I went to Chief Thomas, he told me there wasn't nothing that he could do. These people were following me. I had to go incognito. I had to watch where I was going. I had to watch what I was doing. My family was at risk. I go to the police still don't know anything. They still can't protect me. But I'm a citizen and I'm black. And I live in low-income neighborhoods. But none of our low-income neighborhoods was protected. They had that information. And then for y'all to say that they wasn't nothing that they could do. I watched so many things take place. The woman gets smacked in her face. The woman gets punched in her face. What else? I mean, we almost get threats. And we under the police. We almost get hit by the car. Where was the police officer that was there? The police officer was there when we was walking around. When she went to go get DeAndre, where was the rest of them that should have took her place? When one moved, the next one should have stepped in. But she didn't. Or they didn't. So as we're going back up this 4th Street, where's the first shot come from? Why nobody talks about that? Why is that not investigated? For the crowd to have come back and to begin to disperse, for the cars to come down to hit us. Where's the pictures that I know there's videos because I've seen it myself, where there's the car is at the bottom of the hill, at the bottom of 4th Street, waiting, and a black truck that's sitting there waiting before these incidents even took place. You also have pictures and videos of the gray car sitting up there before it even comes down to disbursement of that hill before it even hits us. So there's a lot of investigation that you're being paid for that are not being investigated because there's plenty of evidence that are there that y'all did not use. And for y'all to use us, Black Lives Matter, I don't know if I'm supposed to say it or not, as we were wrong. We wasn't wrong. If we were wrong as black people standing up for our black citizens to warn our people, then we were wrong. Right. But as far as preserving life and to protect life, even if the police chief or the local government couldn't protect us, what were we supposed to do? Stand up like we did. But your reports are lies. I've even talked to you as a member. Yeah, you forgot. Yeah. It's been several as black people that are sitting in this room today that talk to you. We didn't trust you because you lied to us. Because you told us at first we could trust you. Then you turned around and said that, oh, well, if anything that, I can't say anything. But then, Mr. Fogel, I believe asked you a question, then that's when you said that you had to tell everything to the city council. That you couldn't tell us anything. Oh yeah, it was a good meeting. A good long hour and a half meeting that you left, that you didn't want, because you didn't get good response from the black folks that you wanted to. Well, let me answer. But can you answer those questions, please?
Let me start with access to information. Yeah, there was a meeting at Legal Aid with FAR and others where I was trying very hard to get access to all voices. It was important for us as we did this to hear from people that felt like they were not protected. And we weren't completely successful with that. Coming out of that meeting, I did not get this kind of information that I could factor into our report. I believe we got a broad array of, ma'am, I'm sorry, we had I don't know that I was able to get interviews with all of the people that have strong perspectives, negative perspectives about law enforcement that I wanted. And I wish that we would have had that opportunity. Our approach to this all along was that we want to hear from everyone. No one was excluded or told, I'm sorry, we don't have time. Consistently, when I reached out to people who had that strong negative perspective about law enforcement, oftentimes I was told, we don't trust you. We think that you're too close to the police, or we think that the city is going to not turn over your findings. And I understand that. But I don't think it's fair to say that we ignored that information in our report. I don't think that's accurate. I think what's accurate is that we just weren't given the opportunity to sit down and have interviews and have conversations about the very kinds of facts that you're telling us now.
I gave a teacher, and I brought it up, what was one of the important topics that was said before even the others, before the meeting even got out of control. But besides that, I still need to know those other answers to the questions I can ask.
I'm not sure I'm following the questions that you just asked.
Following questions, I can repeat it again. What are your police officers?
They're not my police officers.
Well, they're yours because they're paying you. The city council local is paying you to do the report, so they're your police officers. So, why, like I said, still, why wasn't we protected on 4th Street? What took the police so long to get there, and where is the video? I know there's videos. Is there, I mean, right now, I can't even go back over to you what I just said. Because I know you heard what I said. And you're not going to answer what I said because you choose not to.
No, there were a lot of places the police were not present. That's precisely right.
I'll tell you this. It was 5 police officers at the bottom where we were standing. You go up from, that's at the bottom of 4th Street. You go up to the top of 4th Street, in the middle where we get to the little round thing, 4 police officers standing there. So there were police officers. But see, you're presenting your report as if you were there. I was there. I know what took place. And your police officers, or Charlottesville's police officers, were there. And it took them even that long. I didn't even go there. But what took them so long to even get there to have a response? Before it took them 15 minutes to get to her. My security that took away from protecting us to protect Heather to start CPR. Where was the emergency people? Where was the police officers that were standing right there? I'm trying to tell you, look more at videos. Start getting out there. Stop waiting to ask people to tell you something. Do your job and start looking at more videos because there's far more videos than the report that you're giving.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, are city officials being given anything in addition to the report that you publicly released today, or does this represent the entirety of your work for the city?
No, we've given them our report. We've turned it over to them, and yeah, that's the entirety of our work is to present the report.
There's nothing just for them. That's
No, there's nothing separate that's given to them. They got the report, and the entire report has been posted.
When did they get that copy of the report?
I believe we delivered it to them on Friday, last Friday, a week ago today. Done.
Let me just point out a few things that are problematic today and are going to probably be even more so come Monday. It's a very comprehensive report. I've only gotten through about 100 pages of it so far. But the very beginning of that report, where initially, before you even get into it, the cover is the picture of a black police officer.
Hi guys, if you are just joining us from inside the newsroom, you're watching former attorney Tim Heaphy. He's holding this news conference in Charlottesville to address the protests and rallies surrounding some of the white supremacist violence that occurred in August. If you guys remember, in mid-August, the rallies involving the white supremacists and nationalists in Charlottesville, we had live reports from down there the whole time. We were following it that whole weekend, and it became really a week-long into a month-long story. Now he's letting some of the people, protesters, I believe also, and just commoners from the city kind of talk about their view and ask him questions about his own independent review and report of these protests and rallies. So listen in here. We don't want to keep it too much on a stagnant shot, but this is the one sort of video that we have coming in of this event. So it is live in Charlottesville. That's what you're watching, guys, here on Fox 5 Live.
Made the statement, and I believe this is what I took down on the notes. Events were a success in as much as they could have been worse.
Our job was to identify things that went right and things that went wrong. I don't mean to suggest that this was a success at all.
But that was the statement that you made.
My point is, it could have been worse. It could have been a worse failure, but that doesn't make it a success.
That there was a murder and 2 deaths.
Absolutely.
I don't know that statement really, well, just in and of itself is problematic. It's not a question in there.
Yeah, it's not a question there. But well, let me just mention the the cover photo. I understand that, and I've heard that now since the report's been posted. The reason that we selected that photo was because it demonstrates those twin competing values that I talked about, the speech and the safety. You have a group of people behind in the background of the image who are presenting speech, however hateful, and then you have the person protecting public safety. The image captured both of those values sort of in the same frame. It wasn't meant to be in any way, send any message about race. It was meant to, because it demonstrates those two competing values.
But I'm telling you that the optics of that
I understand.
are very much problematic.
I've heard, you're not the first to have mentioned that.
Black officer standing there in front of the Klan during the Klan rally, head bowed as though almost in some manner of reverence or an awe. It's just, it doesn't present a good start to your report.
Yeah, I don't see it as reverence or awe at all. I see it as him doing his job. Yes.
I want to go back to the traffic plan in 4th Street. There was a plan to block off the street, and DPW had made proposals to put in those Jersey barriers.
They did.
Why was that disregarded, and why, when people realized that there was no substantial barrier in place, was something more substantial not done?
Yeah, what happened was there is a meeting, it's documented in the report, at which the Director of Public Works suggests the use of these hard plastic Jersey barriers that can be filled with water. And then the question is raised, does that make it impossible for emergency vehicles, if necessary, to drive down? And the response is that emergency vehicles can push through the water-filled Jersey barriers. And people come out of the meeting, the law enforcement command staff and the public works director, expecting that will be used. There's never any follow-up. There's never an explicit decision to not use them. It just doesn't make it into the traffic plan.
So do you think it just got lost in the shuffle?
Yes.
Or people didn't think it was important?
Hard to say, but nobody said, I rejected that for the following reasons. As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. We heard people saying that seems to make sense, but it doesn't make it into the plan. For whatever reason, it's an oversight. They don't use the water-filled Jersey barriers. They use the wooden sawhorse, and that's the one that's ultimately there. Jeff.
First, I don't think you gave an adequate explanation about why you didn't get full cooperation from people who didn't trust you. Initially, you were telling people that they could come to you and their information would remain confidential. At that meeting that Ms. Parker referred to, you acknowledged that you were the lawyer for the city and therefore had no authority to give anything to anybody without their permission, and if they told you they wanted information from you, you were going to give it to them. That's the reason why people wouldn't cooperate with you, because they got no protection from you and they felt that you were lying. But really what I want to talk about is July 8th. First off, were you aware of the fact that the chief had said publicly he wasn't concerned about the Ku Klux Klan? He was worried about the citizens of Charlottesville getting violent before July 8th? You were aware of that, right?
No.
Well, you didn't do much of a research then on this subject. And then, did you have any information that anybody in that crowd after the Ku Klux Klan left were engaged in violence or threatening violence? Because that's the predicate for an unlawful assembly.
Yes.
And without that predicate, you have a false arrest.
Yes.
And a false arrest violates the very oath that Don was talking about, and also constitutes a federal crime. You know that too, don't you? 42 U.S.C. 242? That is a crime for violating people's civil rights.
We had evidence, Jeff, that people did act aggressively and assault police officers.
The only thing you
that was
referred
what
to
they.
was people were calling names to the police, which, as you should know, is protected by the First Amendment. You do know that, right?
Absolutely, that is protected.
So what is it that they were doing that led to any reasonable conclusion which Deputy Chief Unpleasance made on 3 separate occasions that there was an unlawful assembly? I was there on those 3 separate occasions. I didn't see anything that approached the threat of violence. Yeah. The only thing that was there was his desire to disperse the crowd. And simply because they wouldn't disperse, that's why the tear gas was released. And so when you say that both public safety and free speech were protected on July 8th, it's not true. Free speech for the counter-protesters was not protected. People were, in fact, not only not protected, they were punished for exercising their free speech. So for you to talk about that incident as having been done well, I find absurd and outrageous. And what about, do you have any evidence that people threaten violence? Because if you don't, you should be looking for the prosecution of the officer who ordered that unlawful assembly, and then followed it up with tear gas in order to enforce that unlawful order.
I've seen on the video and had direct interview from police officers that they were assaulted on July 8th. Officer Thomas was kicked in the groin, and that leads to him using his OC spray against an arrestee who then does not comply with the arrest but is locked arms with others. That is what the video shows, and that's what Officer Thomas told us.
There were no charges of assault on a police officer. There's no way to get underneath it. You just took his word for it, right?
I took his word for it because I didn't get
Why would you take his
because
word for
the
it if there's counter-information?
because
And
I
not
wasn't.
just present the fact as you learned them.
I would love to have sat down with everybody who has counter information, but upon repeated request, that information was not forthcoming.
We were told by officer not that happened.
I
Because you
saw
don't know
that.
what happened.
I saw
You
that
only
on.
know what you've been told by one officer.
I saw that on video that did happen. Yes, on his body camera, absolutely.
And that justified, it had to be 3 or 4 people, 3 or more people engaged in violence for the unlawful assembly statute. So where does that get us? That gets us an arrest for an assault. That's it.
From what we saw,
22 people were arrested and shouldn't have been. I represented one not guilty. 9 more dismissed. Were those lawful arrests?
I saw evidence on police body camera video of not just words, but assaultive conduct against the police officers.
What about the people who were arrested for blocking the entrance who were all found not guilty of their charges?
I don't have any information about what happened in court, guilty or not guilty.
What do you mean?
Hi guys, if you are just joining us here on Fox 5 Live inside DC's digital newsroom, this is former U.S. Attorney Tim Heaphy. He's in Charlottesville, Virginia, addressing what you guys might remember, the mid-August, August 12th, white supremacist rally and protest that really rocked the city and really the East Coast and the nation as a whole after one woman was left dead after these rallies. And you can tell he's getting a little bit of pushback and lots of questions about his independent review of this. I think it's pretty interesting and relevant. We covered it a lot, not only here at the station, but really the city, again, was pretty rocked by it. It's not too far off from us. So we're going to listen into this as long as we have this on our live stream. We have it coming in live from Fox. Hope you guys are enjoying your Friday. We'll check back in with you in a little bit.
I did not get that information. They clearly contemplated from the very beginning that given the potential for violence, given the numbers, there was likely to be an unlawful assembly. But I can't say that they made a decision at 9 o'clock that would happen. That decision was made ultimately much later after there was the active acts of violence on Market Street. Yeah, Tanisha.
Do you feel, because you've already said that there was a lack of communication and teamwork, I would say, between the state and the city, but do you feel that there was a lack of communication and togetherness of the Charlottesville police as well? Let me elaborate on that a little bit. Because Pleasant, you admit, you just said this up here, he clearly indicated what he chose to do on more than one occasion without running it past Chief Thomas. So do you feel that maybe as police officers on the force that feel some type of way that they have to take orders from a black man? Is it some type of conspiracy in the police department? Maybe we don't know about it yet, but they chose to do what they wanted to do on August the 12th, and it just looks as if all of this is Chief Thomas's fault from the city. Like, as far as the city police is concerned, we've already dealt with the state, we know where they stand. But as far as the city police, because even in your report, certain lieutenants were telling the people in their zone what to do and what not to react to. And, oh, we're not going out there, I'm not sending y'all out there, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. But was that a direct command from Chief Thomas, or are these lieutenants given the ability, or is that their scope of support to say what they want people to do in their zone?
Yeah, this is not Chief Thomas's fault by himself. This was a top to bottom failure to protect public safety. It's Chief Thomas, he's the overall incident commander. It's the command staff that devises the plan. It's lieutenants in the zone who make real-time decisions about when to send in people or not. Don't get me wrong, I am not pinning this blame even on just the police department. There is a much broader failure here that goes to other arms of city government and to the state, precisely. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying this is Al Thomas's fault. I think Al Thomas wanted to do the right thing. I think Al Thomas approached this event with the best of intentions, but he fell short in terms of his planning, his flexibility, his execution. Public safety wasn't protected.
So could it have been a lack? Okay, 10 o'clock, I went to the police and
You did,
reported an
right.
assault. 10 o'clock. The unlawful assembly wasn't declared
So
until
later.
11:31, 11:39.
11:31, exactly.
11:31. That's a whole hour
Yeah.
and 31 minutes.
Mhm.
Was it a lack of communication between the people on ground and the command center before it was caught? Because I mean, assaults were reported way before real violence. I'm talking major violence occurred. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out in your report, you didn't quite grasp that in between.
There were a lot of things happening between when there was a predicate for unlawful assembly and when it was eventually declared. You're exactly right. The first evidence on the radio traffic of somebody requesting it is at about 10:49, by almost 10 minutes to 11. Before that, there's violence. But the first time somebody on the ground says, one of the police officers, and then it takes 40 minutes. And the reasons for that are, you said lack.
Guys, want to switch this up just for a second. We may have this again as we go back to it, but live right now in Tampa, police are holding a news conference, I believe, possibly on sort of the culmination of catching the purported serial killer in Tampa who was accused of killing 4 people. It seems like it's probably about this, but I'm not quite sure. So we're going to jump down to Tampa and check into that news conference.
Some closure to a very, very tragic chapter in their life brings them some solace, although it can never replace their family members that were ripped from them by this individual. Tampa police and law enforcement in this community did their job, just like we always do. In times of difficulty, we stand together and we execute. And that is exactly what happened today. Chief Dugan will be making an announcement, and then I will be reading a statement from Ms. Walker. And I would hope, and I will remind you of this at the end of this, this is a woman who is not accustomed to you. As much as I love you and cherish our relationship for some 30 years, this is a woman who is not accustomed to you. I would ask you, please, to respect her privacy. She is a private citizen who stood up and did the right thing. So please, moving forward, be respectful of that. And just know that in her words that you will hear me read today, the gratitude that she has for the opportunity to do the right thing. Chief Dugan.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could just put some things to rest and explain. Let's talk about the reward money. It's been a controversial topic. For some people, it was never for us. But our law enforcement partners stepped up with some reward money, and then some members of the community stepped up. And they did all this unasked. Some of them did it on their own. Some of them reached out to me directly, and other people did fundraisers. So let me go down listing everyone. You know, Crime Stoppers has put forward their money. You know, let me be clear, she will receive all $110,000. That was the reward that was put up. She will receive every penny of that. But you also have to understand it came from multiple different people, different places, and it takes time to get the checks to her and the money to her. She will eventually get all of the money. So we have Crime Stoppers that will participate. FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, there were some community groups. We had the Southeast Seminole Heights, Old Seminole Civic Association. The Brew Bus did a fundraiser, and this was done through Rise Tampa, our police foundation. And Rise Tampa also donated some money. Richard Gonsmart of the Columbia Restaurant Group. Richard Gonsmart texted me directly. David Straz gave in some money. We also had some other groups who gave us cash donations for us to buy equipment during this time. We have the Greater Tampa Chamber of Commerce. I have J.C. Dominguez, who's with Tropical Surveillance and Investigations. And then we had some other partners who were able to give some in-kind space for us. We had the Outfront Media Group, the Metro Systems, which is the bus benches, the Florida Sentinel, and Clear Channel. I can tell you, people did this without asking. It says a tremendous amount of things about the Bay Area, from law enforcement agencies to the community groups, that really united together and stood behind the police department. And for that is something that will be eternally grateful.
You know, if you think about it, we've been operating at this operational tempo since the week before Hurricane Irma. And so for this community, it's been a challenging couple months, but I think what you saw at the end of this process was a community that was resilient, that was solid, that took care of each other, that executed in very, very difficult times with no drama. Everyone knew their job, everyone did their job. And that is especially true in this situation. And so I, on behalf of the city, can't say enough to say thank you to all of the people that are here behind me. And there are some, like Sheriff Chronister and others, that are not here, but we are appreciative of what they do. Now, cities are made up of individuals. Cities are made up of citizens. I do what I do because I'm hired to do it. These folks do what they do because that is their job. But when everyday citizens stand up and do the right thing in the face of terror, sheer terror, and do it not asking to be thanked, not expecting a reward, not wanting any acknowledgement, but they do it because they know it's the right thing to do. And that is exactly what happened in this situation. We would not be here today with this killer in custody were it not for the courage of one individual who just happened to be working at a local McDonald's. And when faced with that choice that all of us will be faced with at some point in our life, the choice to do something out of the ordinary, that choice to choose between courage and a lesser path, that choice between saying something or saying nothing and hoping the problem goes away, this woman made the right choice. And today, we are a safer community because Ms. Walker did the right thing. She doesn't want any attention. If there was no reward, she would have made the same decision. She is what's right about this city and the people who live here. So she asked me to provide a statement to all of you. And she asked that we please respect her privacy, given what she has just gone through. Delonda Walker's statement reads, "I went to work on Tuesday intending to serve customers and to do my job. The day turned out very differently. When confronted with this situation, I wanted to do the right thing, and I reached out to a nearby police officer. Receiving a reward never entered my mind. Looking back, I am grateful to know I was helpful in assisting law enforcement. I hope you can understand that out of respect for the continuing investigations, as well as the victims and their families, I will not be answering questions. I am her voice. But please know that I appreciate all the well wishes and the kind words of our community. Her actions spoke volumes. We don't need her voice. We are the beneficiaries of her action. Delonda Walker made us proud that day. Please respect her privacy. We'll be available for questions after this, and obviously the chief cannot get into the aspects of the investigation, but we will be available if you have stuff for us, and we'll stick around as well. Thank you for all that you all did during the course of this. We could not have solved this without your help. We appreciate all the attention that you gave to this situation and the dignitary and the respect with which you treated the victims' families. This is a tough chapter for us, but better days are ahead. So thank you, and if I don't see you, have a wonderful Christmas and a wonderful holiday.
Okay. All right, guys, I think we just lost that shot, unfortunately, but it was the mayor, that was the mayor, obviously, of Tampa, talking about that serial killer case that we've been kind of tracking throughout the week and really lauding the hero, the woman who eventually outed that suspect, the guy that was eventually arrested for those 4 murders. So it's really a crazy case, but interesting to check in there to see what's going on with that. With that, guys, we're just hanging out in our newsroom. Welcome to the show. If you're just coming on with us, Fox 5 Live, our digital program here inside our newsroom. Want to see what you guys are up to, so let me know what you're doing on this Friday. Not too busy and crazy around here. We still have that feed coming in from Charlottesville, that interesting review of the protests and rallies that went on in August. Gosh, what a crazy month that was, and really weekend event that was, that kind of led throughout the whole week and prompted so many things, especially here in DC, with protests and rallies against that white supremacism. Just hearing what's coming in from Fox, but nothing that we can take that's relevant right now. So we're going to go back over to Charlottesville, guys, but I promised you also we'd queue up this really interesting World AIDS Day event. Our mayor, DC Mayor Muriel Bowser, was at an event today to talk about resources and volunteers and just sort of the continued organization that we have to fight the AIDS epidemic that is still, of course, in effect in DC. It still exists, but it is better than it has been in years past. So we'll cue that up in just a second, but we're going to go back to Charlottesville for now. Let me know what's up, and let me know just whatever you're thinking about. I want to chat with you.
Realized that there were active disorders, and we were making decisions minute to minute. It was we discovered it so late that we were working around it. And there was communication in the command staff between the Charlottesville officers and the state police, and information got relayed. And there was face-to-face communication in the zones between, like the conversation about the ground commander saying we're going off plan. So there was some communication, but it wasn't as seamless as everybody being on the same channels. Yes, ma'am.
So could that not be anticipated that in a bigger event in August that should have law enforcement be declared and maybe more people being dispersed together? What was the plan for that?
Yeah. It's a good question, and the answer is they should have obviously anticipated that upon the declaration of an unlawful assembly and dispersal, there needs to be separation. The plan, as you can see from this, that there would be 2 sides to the park. There's a public area and a unite the right area. So what we were told was the dispersal plan contemplates that they're going to be in those 2 areas, and so that when you push and separate. But that's not what happened. There was not 2 halves of the park where you have the Nazis on one side and you have the counter protesters on the other side. It was all kind of jammed together. There actually were very few counter protesters in the park. Most of them had remained outside. So that's what I mean about inflexibility. Instead of realizing that if you just push south, you're going to create more conflict like you did on July 8th, they just execute the plan. There were several of the officers that told us that as they dispersed the crowd, there were people in the crowd who were saying, you're pushing us right back into the people that hate us. And that was predictable. That's what the plan did. And that's where you have, coming out of the park, you have more violence. You have the gunshot and you have punches. And then they're chasing dispersal that goes on around the city. As people leave, they end up in different parts of the city, and law enforcement's always a step behind. They're always too late. By the time they get there, then things are largely over. Yeah, Marie.
Question about August 11th and 12th. There were 2 events, one at St. Paul's and the other at the oldest Baptist church in the city, on the morning of the 12th. And there was a request for police presence at both of those events. In my estimation, they were both more than church events. They were really community events. My understanding is that the police, the Charlottesville City Police, denied the request for presence there. I have a neighbor who got a speeding ticket at the same time that the event on August 11th was happening. And so I question the thought that went behind denying that request for police presence at those events. And then I would also share that since that time, I myself was at a similar event where there was a request for police presence. There was a police presence, and then mysteriously they just kind of disappeared halfway through the event. This sort of thing really is much in the way of any sort of feeling or trust. And I just wonder if you did a report, which I'm not, and I've got a hint to read, if your sense is that there's like an ethos that exists in the Charlottesville Police Department that would result in these sorts of things happening. I mean, how would you explain these sorts of things? And in your recommendations going forward, how would you address that? I think this sense of distrust towards the police has existed for a long time in the minority communities in Charlottesville, but this is it's becoming evident to a much wider swath of people. I'm wondering how you should address that or why that exists.
But let me answer the retrospective question before the prospective. Exactly. There were lots of individual churches or neighborhood organizations that requested specific police presence throughout these events. St. Paul's Church on the night of August 11th is one of them. Initially, the response is yes, and then they pulled that back and say no. The reason that what we heard from the police department was that they needed all hands on to be generally available to patrol. That on August 11th, they were anticipating conflict, that they could not afford to put uniformed officers at a particular place. Now, the uniformed officers were right in front of the church, and we're on University Avenue, and we're in front of Madison Hall, so they were close. But you're right, they were not directed to stay at the church, despite a specific request. The same thing occurred with the synagogue, for instance, on August the 12th. A request for an officer, and they were told, we're not going to put an officer there because we need all hands to be available for the larger event, but there'll be officers close by. I don't think that reflects an ethos within the department of a failure to protect churches or organizations. I do think that they're spread thin. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't provide, upon request, specific security. I think they should, when they can. But they're making judgments that if they put someone here, then that makes that person unavailable to be there. And those are hard and fact-bound decisions. Your prospective question is also a good one. I absolutely agree with you that this has pulled the lid off of something that has existed for a long time, which is a real simmering distrust of police. It's not just the black community. It's frankly broader than that. It's broader than that. And that is evident now, and it's played out in our conversations. And I think it absolutely needs to be addressed. I think it needs to be addressed by a communicative effort to have people with different perspectives come together to talk about the issue, about police-community relations, about racial profiling, about disproportionate minority contacts, about all the things that have justifiably come up. We have to confront those issues and not just complain about them, but find ways to change them. And that needs to be in a forum separate from a town hall meeting or a city council meeting, but in a place where real change can occur. I don't know exactly what that looks like. I think the city manager is trying to figure that out, wants to create that sort of an opportunity and address some of these underlying issues. Those are hard issues, but the answer is to go toward them, not away from them. All right. Yes, ma'am. Okay, either one, yes. They could not say no to the permit request, right?
Were you able to find the information regarding the planned motor vehicle attack murder that they planned, and we gave information to the city about over a month prior to this?
Oh. You guys have been watching this morning this independent review from a former U.S. Attorney, Tim Heafy. He's there in the lower left corner of your screen, talking about the Charlottesville incident from mid-August. You probably remember that really well. Details surrounding that, answering a lot of questions about those protests and rallies and the white supremacist sort of aura that is going on, or kind of is continuing, of course, in Charlottesville and the surrounding areas, prompting a whole nationwide real protest of it, and rightfully so, of course. But to not keep this too stagnant, we're going to switch it up a little bit and bring it back. I am here in the newsroom hanging out on this Friday, and we're going to be talking a little bit of medical news as well. Have a little medical segment coming up with you guys in a little bit with Dr. Shilpi. We've had her on before, and we're hoping to do this more often. But speaking of this time of year and everybody getting sick, and the interesting information that we were talking about yesterday, how the flu vaccine this year may not be as accurate or effective as people think it is. Pretty interesting stuff. We're going to hear from the doctor, Dr. Shilpi, and have her kind of talk more about that and what it might mean for you guys this winter as we go through that. I'm feeling a little bit better. I know our whole newsroom has been affected, literally. So many people have dropped this week, and it just keeps going. I'm hoping that I'm a little more immune to it now because I've been through being sick this season, but we're going to get more information from her on a couple different health topics, which is interesting. But first, I want to play, speaking of health, it is World AIDS Day today, guys, which is the kickoff of it was today, and various officials and leaders from around the sort of the local area had events pertaining to it, including our very own mayor, DC Mayor Muriel Bowser. And this morning, really just moments ago, she held this event to recognize the day and to announce their plan to kind of continue to end this epidemic here in the district by 2020, the year 2020. And she'll give some stats about the numbers of the cases and how things have been reduced. But it's interesting. To me, health news is fairly fascinating, and I think especially living in a city where this is a big problem and epidemic, it's important to heed this and sort of be knowledgeable of it and continue to be advocates to fight against it. So we're going to play some of that video now. Our mayor speaking at this event. The video is a little bit rough. We rolled on it from our live camera that we had there, but hopefully it clears up in just a second. Here's the mayor from moments ago.
Be here in our Reeves Center with all of the wonderful employees of the District of Columbia, and I would like to give them a round of applause. And I would like to join Delano and our Serve DC team, who's out every single day in our communities, inviting DC residents and businesses and nonprofits and schools and universities to partner with us on all of the very important aspects of making our city livable for everyone and equitable and thriving and growing. So I want to acknowledge what Serve DC does today because when we work together, when there's not an emergency or a catastrophe, we can work even better if we are challenged with significant weather emergencies or other emergencies. So let's give our Serve DC team a big hand. I can remember not too long ago when we were all assembled there with snow shovels. And we had a lot of volunteers from around the city who came together and said, well, I can help out a senior. I can help out a person with disabilities. I only mention that because it is December. And we may be calling on you soon. But today we are here to talk about World AIDS Day and all that we are doing in our city to reduce new HIV infections, to make sure that DC residents are being tested and treated, and to make sure also that we are talking about removing the stigma of people who are living with HIV and AIDS so that they know that there are treatments available, and if they are compliant with those treatments, that they can live very, very long lives right here in Washington. I am also pleased to see so many of our nonprofit vendors who are here. Let's give them a big round of applause. Talking about getting tested, talking about healthy sexual relationships, talking about going on vacation, you name it. There's something here for everyone, and I want to call your attention to that. Let me acknowledge that I've been joined by members of our team, and I think I left my list of everybody who's present, but let me thank my team members who are here. Sharon Hines, who is the director of the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs, affectionately known as MOCA. And let me also acknowledge Dr. LaQuandra Nesbitt, who is the district's doctor. She's our doctor. Dr. Nesbitt is the director of the DC Department of Health, and of course, her department is really focused on making sure that we are achieving our very aggressive goals around HIV and AIDS, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about that as well. Sheila Alexander Reed is the director of the Mayor's Office of LGBTQ Affairs. And Sheila's office, of course, is right here in Partners, and I'm not sure where David Mariner is. Is David Mariner in the building? He hasn't arrived yet. Okay, so we're going to acknowledge David when he arrives, and he is the executive director of the DC Center. And I'm very proud of the partnerships and also the actual physical closeness of these two offices that represents our partnership together. Deputy Mayor Hasuk Chung is here, and Deputy Mayor Chung is responsible for our Health and Human Services cluster. So she is working with Dr. Nesbitt. She is working with our Office on Aging, our Child and Family Services, you name it, all of the agencies that are focused on the well-being of DC residents. And we're very proud of that work that we're doing together. So let me also tell you just in advance, we're going to have a special guest whose foundation is also helping us raise awareness about HIV and AIDS and domestic violence, autism, and cancer. So I'll look forward to introducing him when he arrives. So why do we have World AIDS Day? We join millions of people across our country and the world in stopping and pausing to take the opportunity to show support for those people, our neighbors, our friends, our family members who are living with HIV and AIDS, and to remember and honor those who lost their lives to AIDS and AIDS-related illnesses. And I want you all to know that as Mayor of Washington, safeguarding the health of our residents is our top priority. And our team has launched an initiative. We call it 90-90-50. And the 90-90-50 plan is a partnership with the Washington AIDS Partnership. And we released that plan just 1 year ago today. Here are the components of 90-90-90-50. 90% of all DC residents with HIV and AIDS will know their status. That's 90%, so that means get tested. 90% of persons diagnosed with HIV will get treatment, and treatment can save your life. 90% of persons receiving treatment will reach a viral load suppression. This means that HIV in their bodies is undetectable. And lastly, we want to cut the number of new HIV cases in half by 50% by 2020. So that's our 90-90-90-50 plan. So earlier today, the DC Appleseed released a report confirming the effectiveness of our efforts. 2016 was the 9th consecutive year of decreases in new HIV cases in Washington, D.C. The number of newly diagnosed HIV cases in the districts went down to 347, and that is a 52% decrease from 2011 and a 73% decrease since 2007. Our residents who are newly diagnosed with HIV are also getting help more quickly. More people are getting connected to care faster, which means they are starting and staying in treatment longer. So while we are all proud of those decreases, because they are significant, down 52% from 2011, down 73% from 2007. And 347 new cases last year. So if you're like me, you're probably saying that's 347 cases too many. And that is why we are here today, to focus on all we need to do to keep DC residents healthier, safer, and living a great life right here in Washington. So with that, I want to turn quickly to our doctor to say a few words about the efforts of our Department of Health and all of our partner organizations.
So thank you, Mayor Bowser, and thank you for your continued support in our efforts to reduce the number of new HIV cases here in the District of Columbia and to ensure that our residents have access to timely treatment. It's so critically important that events such as today continue to happen in our city. The partnerships that we have forged and some of the tremendous progress that we have made in the city have been a result of those types of efforts. We know that it's not just the medical care that people receive that have helped us to make this progress. It's making sure that people have the other supports that are necessary and needed, meaning that we have built a community that recognizes that support in terms of housing, support in terms of food security, support in terms of educational opportunities and job opportunities, and support in terms of timely access to health care are the things that we have really focused many of our commissions and planning efforts as it relates to HIV prevention and treatment in addition to some of the scientific advancements that happens. Here in the District of Columbia, we have what's called a CFAR, which is one of the only CFARs in the country where our health department partners and is an active member with academic institutions to help advance the science of HIV prevention and treatment. And in that CFAR, we don't just focus on medical advances, we actually focus on what our residents need in terms of social support to be able to prevent HIV and to manage it when it happens, in terms of reducing stigma and making sure that everyone can be an active participant and sharing in the prosperity here in our city. So we look forward to everyone continuing in partnership with the health department and many of our social support organizations, our Office of LGBTQ Affairs, Serve DC, and many others that help us continue to make this progress and meet the many goals that we have outlined in our 90-90-90-50 plan. So we're happy to be here with many of you today, all of you today, in fact, and we look forward to continuing to make progress here in the District of Columbia.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you very much. And so one thing I required when I was recruiting our doctor was that our Department of Health would go beyond the walls of the Department of Health, and that our doctor would be out in the community just promoting and making sure everybody knows that it's not just enough to have insurance, you have to use it. It's not just enough to go to the doctor, but we have to live our lives in ways that we can promote our health and well-being every single day. And the Department of Health has a very significant partner in the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs. And so I wanted to ask Director Hines to just acknowledge our various offices that are out partnering with agencies every day to make our residents aware of DC government services. Director Hines.
Good morning, everyone. The Mayor's Office of Community Affairs is comprised of 11 constituent agencies. So to start off here at the Reeve Center, on our ground level, we have Serve DC, the Mayor's Office on Volunteerism, that's led by Delano Hunter and Sarita Spriggs. Serve DC is the hub of volunteerism in the District of Columbia. And so anyone, including all of us here today, are a part of that Serve DC volunteerism family. As the mayor mentioned, we have our snow team that helps our most vulnerable residents, but on any given day, you can connect to Serve DC for a volunteer opportunity. And then when we go to our second floor, we have our Mayor's Office of LGBTQ Affairs led by Sheila Alexander Reed and Terrence Laney. And enough said, a tremendous partner in our community, linking our residents who identify through the Mayor's Office of LGBTQ Affairs. And I see several board commissioner members here today, as well as our partners. And so totally comprising our MOCA family, we connect our DC residents with outreach and services and help them navigate through our government agencies. So there's no problem that's too small or too large. Next to our Mayor's Office of LGBTQ Affairs is our Mayor's Office on Latino Affairs, Somos Washington, led by Jackie Reyes and Julio Guiti Guevara. And then on our 4th floor, we have our Mayor's Office of African Affairs, led by Mamadou Samba and Soroya Kiamin. And then when we travel down the road a little bit to the John A. Wilson building, where the MOCA bullpen resides on our 3rd floor, I am there, as well as the Mayor's Office on Women's Policy and Initiatives, led by Director Kimberly Bassett, who is here. We have our Mayor's Office of Religious Affairs, that's led by the Reverend Thomas Bowen, who is here. We have our Mayor's Office of the Clean City, led by Director Julie Lawson. And then one of our most vital team members and agencies in the MOCA portfolio are our MOCers, the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services, that are led by Director Tommy Jones. And the Ward 1 MOCers liaisons are present with us today. We have Shanada Phillips and Syra Molina. So what's very key with our MOCers, we have 2 MOCers per ward that are accessible to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I say that because we want you to know that if there's an emergency that arises, you can give us a call. So any of our agencies, you can reach us at 202-442-8150. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Director. Thank you. And now, I told you we had a special guest, someone who loves Washington, D.C. like we do, and he brings Washington, D.C. alive with his music, but he also has a focus on and a love for the people, how he can use his music and his connections worldwide, and certainly right here in our city and our country, to make life better for his fans and all of D.C. residents. So Raheem's Love Life Foundation, as I mentioned earlier, has a focus on HIV and AIDS, domestic violence, autism, and cancer. So it brings me great pleasure to introduce our very own Raheem Devon.
Good morning. How you doing? Let's make a round of applause for everyone involved with this morning's efforts on World AIDS Day. It's a pleasure to be here again this morning. For the last year, I've been moving around the country along with the AHF, which is the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. We have a strategic partnership that we put together along with myself and Guapale, who were the public figures for that. And we hit the ground running over the last year. You've been in Oakland, been to Chicago, been to Atlanta, been to Ohio, having symposiums, chopping it up. Particularly with our sisters, you know, and so I'm here this morning, you know, representing people of black and brown color, you know what I mean, but also just representing the community as a person that cares about what's happening in Washington, D.C. and surrounding areas. We make up for 13% of the population, and we make up for 50% of the new cases that's happening involving HIV. I'll say that again. We make up for 13% of the population, but we make up for 50% of the new cases. So, you know, it's not just a thing of social class, regardless of what your sexuality is, what your religion is. You know, whether this is something that's running rampant and that can affect any and everyone, and we either know someone directly that's affected. And you know, again, it's a pleasure to be here this morning and to speak out and rally. And I think this is definitely a pivotal and turning point for Washington, D.C. So again, you have my support. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm ready to put the work in. You know, you know, far too often we do a lot of talking, and it's not enough work happening. So how we do that is just by engaging and being in the street, and again, we have to encourage that. We have to talk to our youth. Again, I'm gonna say that again. Don't forget about our youth. We have to talk. These are the ones that we need to reach, because the demos and where the numbers are coming back, statistics. Excuse me. So, again, on behalf of the Love Life Foundation, A pleasure to be here. And when I say, I mean, this is how we do everywhere we go. When we laying it down. When I say love, you say life. Love. Love. All right, peace.
So, Raheem, will you join us? We're going to pull together some packets that are important to our outreach to promote healthy sexual relationships. Thank you, everybody.
All right, well, that was DC's mayor. As you probably noticed, Muriel Bowser, they're talking about the stats surrounding the continued HIV/AIDS epidemic that DC faces, and pretty good numbers there, and the fight kind of continues for that. So nice to hear from some local officials and even a artist from the area to talk about that. But this was just a few moments ago, really just a couple hours ago, here in DC. So this video kind of rolls out, and thanks for bearing with the stream being a little bit choppy on that. In a moment, we're going to have our medical segment. We're going to go over to our doctor who sometimes joins us in-house, Dr. Shilpi, but she's going to be on Skype with us today to talk about some winter topics. So that'll be coming up shortly. But first, in case you guys missed it, I don't know if anybody caught this last night. I know we were live down there or near the White House yesterday, but the annual White House Christmas tree lighting, guys, it's an event that's happened since 1923, so it dates way back, and President Trump addressed the crowd for that annual ceremony yesterday. And so in case you missed it, let's play out a couple minutes of that. I actually didn't see the exact moment that it all happened, but if you did miss it, we're going to bring that to you. I have some video from that. I'm going to cue it up right now. So let's check into that and see the lights. This is down near the White House. It's a big tree. People can kind of walk by it and enjoy it now through the Christmas season. So let's check it out. National Christmas tree lighting.
President Ulysses S. Grant signed legislation making Christmas a federal holiday. And I sort of feel we're doing that again. That's what's happening. From the earliest days of our nation, Americans have known Christmas is a time for prayer and worship, for gratitude and goodwill, for peace and renewal. Melania and I are full of joy at the start of this very blessed season. We're thrilled to think of the people across the nation and all across the continent whose spirits are lifted by the miracle of Christmas. For Christians, this is a holy season, the celebration of the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. The Christmas story begins 2,000 years ago with a mother, a father, their baby son, and the most extraordinary gift of all, the gift of God's love for all of humanity. Whatever our beliefs, we know that the birth of Jesus Christ and the story of this incredible life forever changed the course of human history. There's hardly an aspect of our lives today that his life has not touched: art, music, culture, law, and our respect for the sacred dignity of every person everywhere in the world. Each and every year, at Christmas time, we recognize that the real spirit of Christmas is not what we have, it's about who we are. Each one of us is a child of God. That is the true source of joy this time of the year. That is what makes every Christmas merry. And that is what we remember at today's beautiful ceremony, that we are called to serve one another, to love one another, and to pursue peace in our hearts and all throughout the world. And so tonight I thank the millions of Americans who light our lives and brighten our wonderful communities. I thank those who are serving the needy during the season and throughout the year. I thank our military men and women who are stationed around the world, keeping us safe. I thank our law enforcement officers who protect our streets and secure our homeland. I thank America's teachers, pastors, and all those religious and those people that have taught us so much for their leadership in our communities and our society. And especially tonight, I thank America's families. At Christmas, we are reminded more than ever that the family is the bedrock of American life. And so this Christmas, we ask for God's blessings for our family, for our nation. And we pray that our country will be a place where every child knows a home filled with love, a community rich with hope, and a nation blessed with faith. On behalf of Melania, myself, Baron, all of my children, all of my grandchildren, they're here with us tonight. I want to thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Thank you.
So that was the little sort of event, a speech that was given before the actual lighting. And I don't know if we have a clip of the, no, we don't. I thought maybe we had a clip of the moment that they did the countdown of the lighting. I think we had that earlier, but I actually don't have a clip of that right now. But coming up next, guys, we're going to have a little medical segment with Dr. Shilpi, and I'm excited to hear from her in a second. We're just queuing that up. But before we do, as we wait for that, we're going to go back over to Charlottesville, this continued review, this independent sort of question and answer of the white supremacist protests and rallies in Charlottesville in August. Seems like it's a long, ongoing sort of afternoon event there. I think they're hearing from anybody that wanted to come, civilians and bystanders and people part of the Black Lives Matter groups and various groups and advocacy groups as well to address this event from August. And we're going to go over there and then cut back in for our medical segment. So we'll see you in a second in the newsroom.
I can't speak to that. I'm not aware of that. Kevin Martingale, and I'll be happy to give you a card.
And then, can we expect the police chief to address in more detail these findings of the report?
Yeah, he does plan to address this further at a later date. I can't tell you when. I mean, obviously, he's got to try to digest a 200-plus page report written in single space, so it's a lot of information to try to address, and he, of course, needs to be speaking with the city manager and perhaps the city council and others. So there's a lot of work, and today is just the beginning of the next chapter. But I think that what you need to understand very clearly is what he said when he is looking forward to trying to do everything that is within his power to create a more united Charlottesville. That is the goal. I hope you all share it, because I can tell you he's committed to it. Thank you.
Down here as quickly as I could when I heard you say that the police were not aware of threats of violence. That is not true. The city
I wasn't the one speaking, I think, at that time.
Well,
I don't represent the city.
At the city council meeting, immediately following the KKK rally, they were handed a stack of pages of credible threats of violence against our community. One naming Wes Bellamy by name, saying that it would be a bonus to smash his head into the face of the statue. That stack of documents, it got an empty can of tear gas as a paperweight. Right. They were given credible threats of violence. And then in regards to the police response on August 11th, there was none. I was there. My friend went to them and said, aren't you going to do anything about this? As we hear torches snapping. These are university police and those are university students. They would not even acknowledge my friend. So may you tell me why the rally the next day was able to happen so that my friend could not be here today? Can you tell me why?
No, I cannot address why the rally happened, exactly when it happened, exactly where it happened. But we do know this. There was a court order that had been entered that instructed the city to abandon a plan that was to move it to a different location and forced it to go where it went. And you have to understand, a lot of decisions got made quickly and in real time.
So getting a little bit heated there inside the room in Charlottesville. Obviously, guys, questions about why that rally happened in August and why the protests went on in the first place. Pretty interesting stuff, I think. I think that whole the month of August and into September, of course, it was dominated by that story. And so pretty interesting. We can flash back there in a little bit if it's still on. But wanted to jump over to our medical segment, which we promised you guys. Very excited to have Dr. Shilpi on the line. Hey, Dr. Shilpi. We got you on. Can you hear us? You good? Hang on one sec. I'm not hearing. Having a little bit of a sound issue. Let me check on this. Hang on, guys. Yeah, I don't hear you, actually. I see your mouth moving, but I can't hear you. Am I doing something on my end? Let me work on this. Okay. We're going to have Dr. Shilpi work on the sound while we come back into the newsroom for a second. If she starts talking and I hear her, I'll bring it to you. Can you hear us? No? All right, we're going to have her call back for a second. Thanks, guys, for bearing with us on that. I do want to ask her some questions about the flu and about stress management and different stuff for this winter. And I love having this little medical segment as part of the show. So I really hope this does work out. Thanks for bearing with our sort of raw issue here. And Pete and Iran, I see that you guys are on with us. Yes, the doctor's in the house. If we can get this working. Thank you for bearing with us. Let's see if she calls back and if we can work it out. I am getting volume on my end, but for some reason, something in the transmission wasn't working. I know. I don't think she can do sign language through it. I definitely don't know all the sign language for the questions I'm going to ask her. But isn't the Charlottesville stuff pretty interesting? I mean, I think it's interesting that this is going on for really like hours and people are sort of questioning why this rally was allowed in the first place and whatnot. Did not expect that actually to be a live video source that we had today, but that's what we had coming in. And also a quick look at the White House, guys. It's adorned for Christmas, as we know. There's a new red garland bow thing on the garland, and it looks gorgeous. Winter, December look for the White House. Loving it. All right, we're going to take a second and try to work on this. I'm going to call her back, and we'll be back with you guys. Hopefully this works out.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I got you. Okay,
Okay,
we're gonna go right into this. Thanks, guys, for being with us. I think I had to call her. There she is, Dr. Shilpi. Doctor is in the house. Let's talk about some of these topics that are relevant to, I guess, the winter time. There's a lot we can talk about, really.
For sure. So we were actually talking about this study that came out and was talking about hearing loss and how people in our generation, we are going to set ourselves up, unfortunately, for a lot of hearing loss, and even the people younger than us. And one of the things that they said is that we actually, as I wear my headphones, wear our headphones too often. The recommendations actually, if you look at audiologists and ENTs, they recommend no more than 60 minutes per day of music. And this really surprised me. They said that the music, you should be able to listen to it at a level where you can hear a conversation beyond the music, which I think a lot of people turn it up, including myself.
Me too.
So that I can't hear the other stuff. So one of the recommendations is, if you guys are listening to music a lot or using your headphones kind of all day to drown out noise at work, is to get noise canceling headphones. And what that does is it helps to lower the decibels that you're required to listen to the music or whatever you're listening to, podcast, anything audio, in order to save your hearing.
Okay. So that's that's an interesting one. Because I'm like you, and I'm sure some of you guys out there who are viewing are like that. I like that heart pumping, loud music to sort of drive me to do stuff, or maybe to exercise, or whatever I'm doing. I kind of like to let the noise outside be gone. But you're saying, so instead of wearing, to get some special headphones for that. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah. So if you kind of look at what causes this hearing loss and what they're saying, let's say they're going to look at all of us in 10 years and say, you've got a little bit of hearing damage, but you're in your 40s or 50s, very young still, that it's probably because of either A, listening to music too loudly throughout your younger years, B, your work environment. They say that people even near, say, a construction site, or that they're near very loud traffic, that can also affect their hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third thing that's common, but we don't really talk about it, is medication. So being on long-term certain antibiotics, taking aspirin and ibuprofen a lot, those are all things that collectively are going to affect your hearing. So the recommendation would be, if you are the type of person that, say, uses your headphones a lot, I do too, just like you, Molly, when I'm working out, they turn the volume up so loud, like I can't even hear my kids cry or anything.
Yeah.
Bad, but I agree. I like to get into that zone mentally. I don't know. Do you guys feel that way?
Yeah, I think I do. And our viewer Pete was just saying he listens to like 8 hours a day of music at work, and he's like, I always will wonder what will happen when I'm older. So is this something that will affect us way down the line, or?
Totally, Pete. So I'm glad you brought that up. But you can help yourself now. So even though it's going to seem like really expensive and a big investment, I do really recommend, and if you talk to any ENT audiologists combined, they all will say, go and invest in a good pair of noise canceling headphones. And what that can do is it can drown out all of that extra noise that you're actually the reason you're pumping up the volume so much. And then it can allow you to get crisper sounds. You don't need to turn it up as much. And also, some people even say you get more, let's say you're listening to something, you get more out of it more quickly and more efficiently, so you're not having to keep listening to the same thing over and over. That's more for, say, if you're listening to like a lecture. Some students will do that sometimes.
Interesting.
But 8 hours a day is a little bit long.
That is a lot, Pete. I hope you're going to be okay. I mean, I guess it depends on what capacity and how loud the music really is. But I thought it was interesting too that you said sort of some medicine. I mean, people take aspirin and ibuprofen all the time, but they're talking high doses might affect it.
High doses, and then also frequently we see that a lot of our younger people, and many of my patients say, I take ibuprofen 2-3 times a week, which to me is such a shocker, but they say it like, oh, it's no big deal. If you're taking ibuprofen even once a week for an extended period of time, and by that I mean more than 4 or 5 weeks for like a knee injury or some kind of thing that you've talked to your doctor about, you really should be careful, because cumulatively that can affect, of course, it can affect, your cardiac system, as we've seen in the news, but then, long-term hearing and things like that can also be affected.
Yeah, that's really interesting stuff. I don't know. I think it's relevant. Some of you guys, viewers out there, I mean, it's people kind of in our age frame, right? And we do this to our ears, and or it happens to us, and we just don't think about it. So interesting topic to talk about. So there's.
And also, the other thing we didn't talk about, but is that people don't. Of course, I don't expect you to professionally come to my office or come see your doctor just to get your ears cleaned. But, we've talked about how there's a safe way to clean your ears with Q-tips, and I always say Q-tips aren't my favorite thing.
Right.
But when you're going in there and cleaning, a lot of times people are pushing wax in further and closer to the eardrum, and then that doesn't provide you with the same sound, the proper environment to deliver that sound, and you need to listen to things more loudly. So having your ears checked when you do go to the doctor and just having them clean it out, putting in drops, hydrogen peroxide or Debrox, both really good options to clean out your ears.
Wow, really good advice. Yes, again, something you don't really think about. Speaking of sort of ears, because it goes into that, I guess, it's definitely sickness and flu season. We have seen it. I was telling them, you guys, and now I know, Shilpi, you've seen this. Our newsroom, people are like dropping like flies. People are in and out of work. It's like really, really hard. I went through it over Thanksgiving. I'm still sort of remnantly getting better, but like it is flu season. The interesting topic I was seeing in the news, and I was actually hearing this more on the radio today, was that experts are actually saying that the flu season could be even worse than you're used to, and they're also pointing to the fact that possibly the flu shot isn't as effective or accurate this year. What is that?
So I always hate hearing this because then people think, oh my gosh, I don't need to get the vaccine.
Right.
But that's not the case. So they are predicting this year that the flu is going to be pretty bad, and it's for a couple of different reasons. So we look to the Southern Hemisphere because they have their winter and their flu season before us. So we look to places like Australia for us to dictate what type of flu season we're going to have this year. And from that, the data that we're collecting at the NIH and the CDC, all of that data is pointing to say that, yes, the flu is really bad this year. And part of the reason is that the vaccine that they made didn't match quite as well as they had expected. And so,
interesting.
You know, I would say medicine is not an exact science. There's a little bit, we use science to help us craft these vaccines and all these treatments, but sometimes they miss the mark. However, they're saying anywhere, 10% and more effectivity, but we don't exactly have the numbers yet until we start seeing more cases. So the reason I say you really should get vaccinated is because it's also something that's called herd immunity. So let's say you decide not to get vaccinated, Molly, and you work in the newsroom, and then your colleagues say, forget it, I'm not going to get vaccinated.
Okay.
More people are not getting vaccinated, and then the one person who has it spreads it to everybody, and then it's a problem. So we really want to create that herd immunity. And the other thing is, people like our age group are not exempt. I mean, of course, the people that are at risk the most are the elderly,
older,
the weak immune system, and the very, very young, the babies who can't get it. However, they rely on people like us to get the vaccine, and then people like us are the ones that we hear about getting sick. And sometimes I hate to hear these cases. It makes me so sad. It's the younger people, they die from the flu, and people say, oh my gosh, I never knew that you could die from the flu.
Right.
But you absolutely can.
Isn't that nuts? Yeah, it's something that it's fascinating. You guys out there, I see Kellex and Pete, you guys are on the stream. If you have any questions regarding any of this, of course, throw them out. We're gonna chat with Dr. Shilpi about all of this. But if you are just joining us, Dr. Shilpi here on the air with us for our little medical segment talking about the relevant winter topics. And one of them, of course, is just the sickness that's going around. Like I was saying, we definitely have it going around in this newsroom, but anywhere really in offices. Other, I guess, basic tips or general things that you would put out there in this moment that we should be aware of for spreading this, because we do have some people that are coming to work sick. I mean, I try to think like I try to be, I guess, prudent. We all try to be prudent with taking our days off, but really we should stay out of the office, right?
You should. And it's tricky because you don't want to miss work. People rely on you. You have things you have to do. But people will get other people sick. You're not going to really be able to get your job done if you're not feeling well or if you're feeling kind of under the weather. If you do have the luxury of having a type of job where you can work from home, that's your best bet if you're feeling up to it. But the reality is, the more rest you can get, and if you do have the flu, you can, of course, take medication for that. But the more rest you get, the quicker you're going to bounce back, the faster you will be able to recontribute to your job, and the fewer days you're going to have to take later down the road when you're still recovering.
Yeah, and okay, also to clarify, because this is interesting, the flu versus just having something like a cold that's going around, I'm actually not even aware sort of what I had over Thanksgiving. I definitely had certain symptoms. How can you really tell what it is if you're just kind of pushing through? Maybe you go to the doctor and get antibiotics or something, but I don't know. How do you know if it's the flu or not exactly?
So for the biggest characteristics of deciding, is it the flu or is it just a cold? The flu, you're going to have very high fever, so I'm talking 101, 102, 103, severe body aches, and you really won't be able to get out of bed. I mean, that's going to be a chore for you. I mean, it's every symptom of a cold, but magnified times 100. You might have some upper respiratory symptoms, coughing, a sore throat, but the real telltale sign are those high fevers and the body aches. And they will, sometimes you'll feel well the night before, and then all of a sudden in the morning you feel unwell, and it hits you like a train. So not being able to kind of really function. And then when you go to the doctor, we have swabs, so we can do a we can do a flu test and see if it is indeed the flu. the best and most important thing that I want people to know is that if you're not sure at all, call your doctor's office, call emergent care. They can call in a medication for you called Tamiflu, but you have to get that within the first couple of days. Otherwise, it's not effective. And why that's so important is because it can shorten the duration of how severe your symptoms are and how long you're sick. So it can shorten everything, make you feel better much faster.
Wow. Okay, so if you don't get anything, how long does the flu actually last? Is there sort of a duration generally, or?
The true symptoms of feeling like you can't get out of bed, some studies and stats have shown us up to 7 or 8 days, but then the aftermath and the post symptoms, 3-4 weeks sometimes.
Wow.
People don't feel like themselves again for at least 3 weeks.
Okay, Pete also asking, when do you know to go into the doctor about the flu? He says most times he doesn't bother, but when do you know to go in?
So I think this is it's interesting because it's like you're so sick you can't get out of bed, but yet I'm telling you, like, get up and go to the doctor. So here's my recommendation on that. If you are having those really high fevers, body aches, and you can call your doctor and explain your symptoms, they may be able to talk with you and diagnose you over the phone and then send in a medication. So you don't actually have to leave your house multiple times to get that medication. So always try first to see if you can contact your doctor, but don't wait till it's been 2-3 days, because then it's a little bit too late. But if you're not sure, you're not really having those high fevers, you're feeling crummy, but your body aches aren't so severe and you can get out of bed, then I would say go into your doctor so you can actually be examined, because it could be a viral illness or it could be something else. I mean, we're seeing a uptick in ear infections in adults now too, so it could be something completely unrelated, but that still makes you feel bad and you need medicine for.
Wow. Yeah, definitely staggering stuff and really good advice about that. Really quick, I want to jump back to the hearing topic because Pete had another question. We were talking about noise canceling headphones. Is it better? Does it matter over the ears versus the earbuds, or what do you think? What is that?
I have this debate with my husband.
You do?
He's really into headphones, and I don't know a lot about it. I don't think it matters from a medical perspective because I think the technology is built the same. I do think that your personal preference, I mean, if you're the type that you can have an earbud in your ear for hours at a time, then by all means go for it. I'm personally that's not comfortable for me.
Yeah.
But I think the technology is built so that both are actually the same.
Okay, yeah, good answer. So there you go, Pete. Now you know. And then let's jump back quickly to the flu topic. How long does the season of the flu go on? Do we kind of know when it's going to wrap up, or?
So usually we'll say it starts somewhere in early fall and then goes right before spring. The problem, though, this year is that the weather pattern has been so erratic that we're seeing it pop up at all different times. I can't tell you solidly when it's going to end, but I would say be very careful because I think, and I have a feeling from all the data that I'm reading and cases that we're seeing come in, that we're going to see flu longer, much later in the year. So not just January, February of early next year, but also we might see cases in March and April. So more of a reason to get your flu vaccine. It takes 2 weeks for that vaccine to kick in. So you want to get it, today, this weekend, just so that you're protected.
Yeah.
Wash your hands, stay hydrated. And it's not mean if you think somebody is sick, it's not mean to say, hey, are you okay? Do you want to take some time off? But also kind of stay away from them.
I know.
And it can be hard, but hand washing, that's how the flu, respiratory is how the flu spreads. So hand washing, cleaning surfaces, things like that, hygiene measures are always good.
And then I know there's so many things going around or whatever, and we talk about the flu a lot because there is the vaccine and everything. What other things are to be aware of? Like what else is prevalent? Is strep throat a thing that's going to be going around? Is that all the time? I'm just curious what's the most, I guess percentage-wise, is the most sort of viable to get? Like what are we going to be at risk for?
Generally it's viruses, and they're all different kinds of viruses, and they present kind of on a spectrum. So they'll present from just cough and cold, sore throat, all the way up to influenza. But the viruses, we see them more really in the winter, and the main reason is because we're in closer quarters, so they can spread more quickly.
Okay.
It's not that they're not present in the summertime, but we're not as close together, and there are certain strains that are just more prevalent during the season. But mostly, I would say the bulk of what I'm seeing are these upper respiratory symptoms, cough and cold. We talked about this a little bit last time, but you know, don't confuse with allergies, because you might also be suffering from allergies, which is another distinction to make. And in allergies, you shouldn't have a fever or anything like that. But viruses, you'll have these nasal symptoms, sore throat, coughing.
Isn't that interesting that the reason we kind of associate the spreading of disease with winter, is that really just, is it the weather and like the close quarters, or is it anything else to do with the season?
That's a lot of the spread. I mean, that's why you see that even in children in the schools, that's what's happening more too, right? They're in a lot more close quarters, and they spread it to the families. But generally speaking, that is why we see an uptick. And then, of course, there's a specific season for these other illnesses, things like influenza, where we see them starting early winter.
Yeah, definitely. Is there, side note, I'm just thinking about this, we have a lot of Purell like pumpers in our office. Is that key? Is that actually legit? I mean, it is, right?
I think that anything you can do to clean your hands is good. There were some studies that showed that it wasn't really that effective. I think they've done some reformulation to help make sure that it is. If you're going to do that versus doing nothing, certainly do that. But remember that hand washing, nothing can really top that, because that so mechanically gets rid of and rinses off some of the bacteria and viruses that you're carrying around.
Okay. All right, so speaking of the holiday season, the winter season, let's go into one more topic here. Talk about stress in general, right? Let's go to the mental side, the emotional kind of mental health side of it. We're going into the holiday season. There's so much surrounding it. There's family, there's travel, food, all that stuff. What can we talk about, I guess, about stress during this season and how to manage it?
So stress it's a little shocking to me, because I know that December is a stressful time, even though it's holidays. But I mean, I guess I wanted to ask people, do you really feel a lot of stress right now? Because I see it in patients, but I guess I didn't realize it is a big problem come December. I don't know if a lot of people are saying that they feel stressed right now.
Good question. You guys who are on the stream, let us know what you feel about that, because I mean, we talk about that during this time of year, of course, like you were just saying. But I don't know if that's a reality. I guess we do segments like this during this time too.
We do, yeah. And that's what I'm saying, is that we talk about it a lot, and statistics say that, but I didn't know if maybe it's just isolated to some people. But what I found, and patients do come to me and say, you know, I'm so stressed at the end of the year. The main reasons that we generally are seeing people feel stressed right now is that financially it's a big time where people are doing a lot of spending and shopping, and maybe they, you know, the budget, it's either more than what they budgeted, or they didn't have time to budget. And then also it's the end of the year, you know, so you're trying to wrap up a lot of things, which I think puts a mental stress on people, because they have these deadlines. Okay, it's the end of the year, I really need to wrap up on the project I started, or deliver all these things, or had my personal goals that I haven't met 1, 2, and 3 of those, so I got to do that. And then the other big thing I think is specific for health is kind of the weight loss health realm, because there's so many New Year's resolutions that are focused on health, where they say, I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to start to eat healthy, start an exercise program. So to me, that's the big bulk of what I see. But I have some tips for you guys on that.
Yeah, let's hear the tips on that. And I have another question for you about that. But first, sort of the tips on going through, these stressful moments. I'm not getting a ton of comment on if or not people are actually feeling it, but what can we do?
They're so stressed, they don't want to talk
I know, right? If you guys are, I'll ask your question, Pete, in a second. That's a good one. But before we segue, what are some great tips to kind of at least start or sort of prevent or combat this feeling?
So one thing I always tell people and patients is that it's December, right? Today's December 1st. You still have 30 whole days, which is a long time. Yay. I mean, you can make life changes in 30 days, not even in 10 days, but if you are thinking, okay, I have these goals and I haven't met them yet, you should write them down today, take the weekend, and then the next 2 weeks work on those goals, because you're going to feel so accomplished right even before the Christmas holiday and New Year's and any other holidays that we have coming up, where people do tend to take it easy. You've already accomplished a lot of it. So there is still time. I want people to remember that. Second thing is that now is a great time to make an appointment with your doctor. The end of the year, it can still count in your annual free physical if you have insurance, and it will be within the year, so it's covered. Don't wait till January, because that's your next year, and then, you know, that's a whole different year for the deductible and things like that. But you get one free or included physical every year. So take advantage of that. Make an appointment today or the next few weeks. And then if you are looking to do any healthy eating or exercise plan, again, also start that in the next few weeks. You will feel great and full ahead of the curve by, you know, mid-December. And then as far as the budgeting and things like that, sit down and say, okay, these are the things that I'm going to do in terms of budgeting. And then if not, think about other alternatives. You know, spending time with people, they like those types of gifts, homemade things. Those are also easier financial burdens.
That is really cool advice, and I'm curious, do making those lists, and I guess you could say they're sort of goals or to-do lists, are those, I always wonder if that would have maybe a negative effect or the opposite effect. It makes you more stressed to kind of accomplish things, but it is good to kind of get those written out there, you'd say?
Yeah, and if you even talk to these organizational experts and you look at a lot of the data, I'm a pen and paper type of girl, so I always will write things down because, you know, it's easiest for me to see. You really feel a lot of sense of accomplishment when you cross things off, and then you can also compartmentalize. You can say, this is what I need to get done for work, this is my personal health, I have to go and get these blood tests, I gotta just get that physical, and part of seeing it constantly will remind you, and then you get things done. I think you're more efficient.
I love that. Yeah, I like the compartmentalized kind of idea, how to put them in different topics. That's good advice. I'm going to start thinking more about that and maybe doing that this weekend too. It's interesting to segue this kind of into one of my viewers, Pete, you were saying this, maybe not stress this time of year, but sort of depression, winter seasonal depression. That's a whole kind of another topic, right? I know that I definitely feel that with the darkness and kind of going into December. I've been telling you guys as viewers throughout this month and like going into December that this is sort of the dark month. And I mean, what can you say about that, I guess, getting through that or battling through that?
Yeah, that is a really great point. We see an uptick in a lot of depression and people feeling even some sense of hopelessness, or they're surrounded either by family or not enough family, not enough support. So I would say be really careful with utilizing substances. So, you know, alcohol can always make those things worse. But as I was saying to you, to go see your doctor, if you think that this is a regular problem or something that you feel like you're feeling down more days than not, seek help from your physician. There are some online communities and support groups. I can send you the information for that. And then exercise. That is the number one way that we can release the same chemicals in our brain that actually antidepressant medications release long-term, but as a short-term burst without any medicine. So exercise is great medicine. Do it with a friend. Spend a little bit of time outdoors when the sun is out, because that is going to lift your mood. And we have a lot of good data to show that that helps people.
That is awesome advice. And isn't it interesting too? I always thought about this. People may be driven to go into a little space and drink alcohol or whatnot because you are, that's sort of, it's what you think of maybe as relaxing or as kind of getting you through that. But in effect, it is actually the opposite effect because alcohol is a depressant. Is that right? It kind of works the other way? We initially feel that up feeling and, you know, a little bit more energy, but it is a true depressant in the brain, and that's why you feel more tired later on, and it's harder the next day to come off of that. So I mean, isolation and the feeling of loneliness is actually pretty prevalent now around the holidays, and you shouldn't feel bad at all because it's so much more common than we even talk about. That people should seek help and maybe make a little bit of extra effort to tighten those relationships that they do have, to know who their support community is. That's awesome. Wow. So some really great topics we discussed here today, Shilpi. Thank you so much. And guys, thanks for engaging. Yeah, these questions have been great, and it's really great to have. Yeah, they're really good, and it's great that we had you for about a half hour, which is awesome, which takes us basically to the end of our show. But hopefully we'll talk to you again soon, Shilpi, and thanks for the winter advice. We'll try to get through this weekend, and hopefully we'll talk to you again next week, right? No problem. Just get your flu shot. All right. Good advice from the doctor in-house. All right. Thanks, Shilpi. Bye. Bye. All right, so Dr. Shilpi there. Really glad to have her on. It's fun to have this medical segment. You guys let me know what you think about it in the comments. I see you've been chatting with me, so thanks for your engagement and your questions. It's a great reference. She's a great resource to have, and I really hope to have her at least once a week on the show. So be sure to tune in throughout the week, guys. As always, we're going to continue our coverage on our digital platforms, and we'll be back here on Fox 5 Live on Monday. We start at 11 with a nice little weather update, maybe a little sports from Mike Thomas, and then I'll go into news around 11:30, as always. So let us know what you think. Happy December. Hope everyone's paying their rent on time. And it's December 1st, so let me know what you're getting into. It's going to be a great month. We're going to get through the seasonal winter darkness depression together. But seriously, some great tips from Shilpi, and I definitely noted a few of them that she is recommending through the holiday. So we'll keep up to date with her as we get through the month together. And thanks for joining us again today, guys. We'll leave you with a beautiful shot of the holiday-adorned White House for you, and we'll see you again on Monday. Thanks, Pete. Thanks for your questions. Calex, Iran, everybody who is commenting and is on today. Hope you're having a really happy Friday. We'll see you again on Monday, guys.